Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. We got another great show for you here. Welcome to a Wednesday. Let's get it started. 253-263-1540. Make sure to write down that number. I'll say it again. 253-263-1540. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. We've got another jam-packed show for you today. So buckle up, give us a call. Hey now.
Hey now.
Oh, easy, Ellis. Easy. We're just getting started here. Good morning, everybody. 253-263-1540. We're live on TikTok. We're live on YouTube. I don't even know how he just got through. The line's supposed to be muted. I'll figure that out later. Good morning. Good to see you all. Good to see you all. We had a nice night last night. A little Fantasmic. Always good to be in the park with you. Thank you in advance for contributing to that gift goal. I'm experimenting over on TikTok to try to make sure that we have a goal that we can hit on every show. At the end of every show, we'll move over to TikTok and do a team lift, and then we'll cut the live and regroup later in the day. But I really want to hear from you today. I've got a lot to talk about. 253-263-1540. I was sitting here for like 10 minutes before the show. This board that I'm using has all these different sound effects in it, and I don't really play with them. And there's all these jingles, and I'm sitting here cracking myself up with some of these jingles, and I can have a field day. I might just wait for the show with Kenzie this weekend. But there's so many fun little jingles in here, you know? And I'm just sitting here cracking myself up, and I'm like, you better focus, because you're going to wind up sitting here doing a show for no one if you keep going and don't actually, hit the button. So, but we're live. Good morning over on TikTok. Thank you, T-Gas. Thank you all for your support. I do look forward to hearing from you today. Now, I have to say this first. I don't know when the last iOS update was. I am not one of these people that updates their devices as soon as an update comes out, because I generally feel like those updates get debugged by the public. There's only so much they can do, and then those updates come out, and the first round of people that get them tend to have issues. So I don't like to update my devices at all. Like, I'll do it when I have to. Especially when something tells me I need to, you need to update this to run this kind of app or whatever. But generally, I'm late to the game on the updates. So I don't know how old this new update is on my iPhone, but it's horrible. I mean, even the little heart on that. First of all, whenever we got to the point that we socialized text messaging, that now you can like text messages. I mean, that's been going on for a while now. But whenever that happened, I don't know. But okay, fine. I've given in. So, and it actually makes sense. But the little heart that you hit on the iPhone, it used to just be like just a little nothing heart, the shape of a heart, just a little piece, little simple piece of clip art kind of thing, Now I click the heart, and it's got like depth to it, and it's cartoony, and it's like pink, and I don't like it. I don't like it. I want a classic mode. I just want to hit classic. I'm sorry. Change is good. Change generally is good. Not all change. But why? Why do we have to mess with everything? Just a little heart. It's so ugly now. And it might be an old update. I might be talking to a whole bunch of people right now that are like, Royce, that happened a year ago. I don't know. But it happened to me the other day, so it's new to me. And I don't like it. It's very cartoon. I just like less is more. You know what I mean? Less is more. Moderation, key theme of the show. 253-263-1540. For those of you who don't know, the TikTok portion of my existence started during the pandemic. There was Musical.ly. My first experience with Musical.ly was doing Muppet stuff. I like found Musical.ly, and I would just find songs by the Muppets or Sesame Street, and I wouldn't even sing them in like a voice. I would just make silly faces and mouth along to them. You'll never find this channel, obviously. And these videos started getting like views. I didn't understand it, but I was like, I don't have any followers. How are people watching these things? And it was the algorithm, you know? So TikTok comes along, which was the evolution of Musical.ly. And I start playing with like a Royce's account or like a Royce's arcade account or something. You know, I think at this point we're in the pandemic. And I'm just stuck at home, so I'm making like little dumb videos and I'm seeing what works and what doesn't work. And at the time, it was all about like part 2 videos that you never saw, right? I mean, there was the dancing trends, but part 2s. And it's somewhere along the line I had created this Disney account. I don't know what motivated me to do it, but I created a Disney account. And I think I was looking ahead, knowing that I had this arcade business that was kind of on ice, like so many other small businesses during the pandemic. And so for whatever reason, I parked this account. And I really can't tell you, much like me choosing to do these radio shows as a pivot, I don't know what inside of me told me to create that account. But I listened to my intuition. And it was Disney Parks Live. Because I had never seen, despite people on YouTube doing it, anybody taking you on a ride virtually. And I thought, how cool, because Live really was nascent to TikTok at the time. And I was not familiar with much in the way of live theme park streams anywhere, even if they did exist, okay? And there's something about the presentation on TikTok, the vertical form versus the horizontal form, that somehow makes it a little more immersive. And that's a whole other conversation, because I could explain to you why I think TikTok is so successful as far as community engagement goes. Because community engagement is just a massive part of TikTok, and I don't see it working the same way on other platforms. And again, a lot of the algorithm has to do with that. So all of this to say, I created this account. The idea was to present theme park rides live, Disney park rides specifically. Because my entire life I grew up adoring Disney parks and adoring Walt Disney's legacy. People like Jim Henson, people like George Lucas. So as the company evolved, as the parks evolved, my love for them only grew. Used to go to Disney World all the time growing up, all the time. So I thought, oh, this would be really cool. And now I didn't think it would turn into a business, and I don't know what motivated me. I really am trying to think. I don't know what motivated me to start the channel, other than I hadn't seen anybody do it. In other words, I didn't look at it like, oh, you know, let me start this thing and it'll turn into what it is today. I think the original thought was park it, because I didn't see anybody on TikTok. You know, I don't even think Disney Parks at the time, I know for a fact, didn't even have a presence on TikTok. So maybe they had parked the handle, but they weren't doing anything. So grabbing the Disney Parks Live handle, I just saw as a value proposition, even without doing anything with it. So fast forward, I start creating content, and because those part 2 videos were so popular, and I had all this technology in my warehouse, and I've told this story before, so I'm going to tell the very, very short version. I decided to build a ride in my warehouse. And I had all this technology, so I built this ride, and instead of doing a part 1 setup for a part 2 video, I did how to build your own Disney ride in just 5 steps. And I crammed more into that one video. Okay. How that video didn't have 25 million views, I don't know. Okay. It got just shy of 1 million, and it launched my account. And at some point, I changed the name to Disney Parks DIY. Nowadays, nobody even questions why the DIY is in my name. Nobody asks. Nobody cares. But that's actually where the DIY came from. Then, because Live was new, I started going live in my office in California, in my house. 3 people watching these lives. 3 people watching these lives. Just hanging out talking. So I started sharing like my collection, my Brer Rabbit collection. I love Brer Rabbit. I love Brer Rabbit, okay? Always have. And I have this massive Brer Rabbit collection. I didn't realize until I looked it up that Splash Mountain, which opened up in 1989, really existed for more of my life than it did not. I think it was 92 in Magic Kingdom, 89 in Disneyland. And actually what I found out was that it opened up in Tokyo the day before it opened up in Disney World. They did back-to-back openings. But anyway, so I would share things like my Brer Rabbit collection. And my face was on camera for these lives, and when I started doing the theme park lives, I took a totally different direction with it and I ran away from having my face on camera. Fine. So what is he talking about? Why is he taking us down this road? So I started doing different videos. I started putting my face on camera with the lives. I started making little videos, responding to questions, taking questions. I leaned into that for a minute. And I responded to somebody's comment on Splash Mountain because at the time I think this is when they announced the retheming. Maybe they already had. I don't know. But I chimed in on the conversation. And man, did I get eviscerated. Some kid that I didn't even know existed who must have been 17 or 18 years old didn't just come for me in the comments, but found my email address, and I could find the email. I'm not going to. And sent me like a 4-paragraph email that I'm a racist POS because I'm saying that Song of the South wasn't a racist movie and Splash Mountain and just eviscerated me and and I felt so bad. I felt so bad. This person, I looked up to you, because all the DIY stuff. I looked up to you, and now I'm filth because I had this opinion. Really knocked, like literally, and then I even messaged them back and tried to have a conversation. Boy, was that foolish, So when I started doing the lives from the theme park, I very much started by keeping my opinions to myself. That was a choice. And I very much, when we were riding Splash Mountain, never commented on how I felt about the situation. And maybe over the last year since the retheme has opened up, I've been far more vocal. But I've never really explained the truth. So here we go. Most people that say the Song of the South film is a racist motion picture have never seen the movie. Most people that say that the Song of the South motion picture is racist couldn't even tell you who's in the movie, let alone the plot. The attraction, which only focused on the animated characters from the motion picture, is as much a part of the legacy of the Walt Disney Company. And by the way, most of these people that are still crying, and I'm not, because I'm going to take both sides of this for a second, most of the people online who are crying about it, because I can name accounts on Twitter, and they're all they want is rage bait, right? They're trying to monetize their Twitter account, so every day they're crying about Splash Mountain. Get a life. All right. This person who I'm thinking of, who's out there crying that Splash Mountain is gone, probably doesn't know boop about the history of the ride or the movie and just wants to make money off of rage bait. However, such a lost opportunity here for conversation. So stick with me for a second. Song of the South comes out in 1946. 1946. Based on the story of Uncle Remus, who is a folk character extending back to the 1800s. 1881. 1881. All right? So, not only is the Song of the South a technical achievement for its time, okay, but it is the story, okay, or a story rooted in black culture. And the problem I have is that nobody wants to have the conversation. And I feel, and I could be wrong, and there's a phone number, and we're going to go to the phones. I'm going to pick up the phone, hold. I have a feeling most folks don't even want to take up this fight because they're not going to be heard. Okay, but I find the Song of the South not only to be non-controversial, but progressive in so many ways. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. Who's this?
Oh, hello, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I have a question for you. I've never been to a Disney park, but I have a question. If you could choose one of the following to go to a Disney park with, who would you choose, and what park would you take them to? Adolf Hitler or Stuttering John Melendez?
Hilarious. I would pick the lesser of two evils. I would take Adolf. Also, I don't think Adolf Hitler could get on too many of the rides. You know, he'd probably need lifts. Thank you so much for the call. Hilarious. So, here's the thing. Song of the South is a technical achievement for the way that it blended live action and animation. James Baskett won an honorary Academy Award for his portrayal of Uncle Remus. The song Zippity Doo-Dah is one of the most quintessential Disney songs of all time. Even if you were to argue that the film is problematic, the opportunity for conversation was completely lost on Disney leadership. Like, here's my whole thing. You had such a even if you're retheming the ride, put all that aside, you have such a fantastic opportunity there to take a piece of Walt Disney motion picture history, okay, and use it as a jumping off point for conversation. What about the movie is okay? What about the movie is problematic? And open up that conversation and educate your audience. It's such a great Bob Iger's like buddies with Oprah. You could have had Oprah on Disney Plus doing a Song of the South anniversary special. Okay, you could have brought a panel of black actors up there and had a conversation about what does and doesn't work with the film. But to erase it completely from history is even more problematic. And the real issue I have with it is that the motion picture, forget the ride, the motion picture is based off of a character that has now been wiped out of Disney's history, a character that preceded it, you know? And Disney is the ultimate house for shepherding characters. You know, we call it IP, but it's really characters. It's really characters. And there was such an opportunity there to do what they did with Song of the South is to do such a disservice, not just to Uncle Remus, but to do a complete disservice to James Baskett's legacy. So not only have you erased the ride and erased the motion picture and erased a cultural character, you've erased the legacy of an actor. To me, if you really wanted to be fair, and I can't stand the word woke, but if you really wanted to be, cognizant, that's how you would have played it. But Disney did the corporate thing to play it safe. Oh boy, the phones are lighting up this morning. You're on the air. Who's this?
Good morning. It's your favorite vocal performance and music therapist.
Oh, no.
How are you doing this morning, Royce?
Hi, Heather.
Yeah, I know, right?
You like that I knew it was you?
Hi. Yeah. So actually, I have something to say on the Song of the South.
Okay.
don't tell people. You're never going to believe it. I am biracial.
All
My
right.
father is black.
I had a feeling.
I have a lot to say on this, actually.
Go on.
Yeah, I have a lot to say on this, actually. And I never found Song of the South to be racist. I found it to be culturally appropriate.
Correct.
And I loved it. I'm tired of people erasing the history. You know, it's like what Germany has done with the museums. We should embrace this and say, this is what happened. This is how things were back then. Let's embrace it and enjoy what we did culturally. The music was different. We had beautiful songs and music and so much. And the Song of the South embraced that. And to take it away is very harmful, I think, in many ways. We don't have enough Black history in Disney as it is. So there's that. But that's not really why I'm calling.
But wait a second.
So I'll let you continue for a moment.
No. I'm not letting you off easy. All right. Were you raised on Uncle Remus?
Was I raised on Uncle Remus? I watched it many times with my family, if that's what you're asking.
No, but the story, the books, the stories before all of Song of the South. I mean, because again, it goes back. The story of Uncle Remus goes back to the 1800s. I mean, this is early IP, just to dumb it down for the modern age.
No, I wasn't raised on it.
Okay, but it is purely wiping out Black culture is what it's really doing by erasing Song of the South. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I absolutely agree.
So let me ask you this. And again, this is a radio show. If I'm wrong, call in and tell me I'm wrong. I'm sure you will. I would argue that outrage over Song of the South and particularly Splash Mountain came mostly from white folks, or at least non-black folks, I'm guessing. Because I think most black folks
trying to be politically correct and not harm people. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's virtue signaling, right? So I would argue most black folks would rather have the conversation than erase a piece of their history.
Yes.
But most black folks don't want to have that conversation because then a lot of white folks will call them ungrateful.
Would it be ungrateful?
I've heard that from black friends that
feel.
like, hey, I can't speak up on the retheming because then we just sound ungrateful kind of mentality. And I just feel like the problem with that sort of ultra progressive mindset is it's sort of like binary. It's 0 or 1 and there's no middle ground. Mm-hmm. So it's like you're with us or against us and you can't appeal to that. So I understand how like somebody who maybe was raised on this might just like go into their shell and be like, I'm not even picking on this fight. Like, okay, fine. I appreciate that you put Tiana in a ride. Not that my fight is with the ride. I love Splash Mountain. I adore Splash Mountain, but the movie would have been such a great opportunity for conversation and they just erased it from the vault. That movie should be on Disney Plus.
I know. You're right. It should be. There's a lot of movies that should be that have been erased. So, I feel, kind of saddened by them removing it. Although I love what they've done with the ride in the same place. I don't know how. It's kind of a double-edged sword, if you will.
Well, it's always going to be that way. And I can appreciate change. What I said the other day about Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and it's a totally separate conversation, is that just the storytelling is very poorly executed. Lots of exposition.
Yeah.
I would say.
So that's not actually why I'm calling them.
I understand that. Give me one more second. And the phone lines are lighting up, and everybody be patient. But I would argue that the better move would have been to give Princess Tiana an original ride and not a hand-me-down. I've said this before on the Park Lives, that I would almost argue it's a little disingenuous and a little more problematic to give your only black princess a hand-me-down ride. Just gonna call it out.
I think then they would have to create another black princess because of the way the movie was set up, she was mostly in the outfit. She very rarely wore a dress.
I've never seen the movie.
Oh, okay. Well,
What,
you should
Princess
see
and
the
the
movie.
Frog?
Yes.
No,
you
I've
should see
never.
the movie.
No.
Yeah. No, you can't really say much until you've seen the movie.
I'm
It's
not
a good
commenting on the
movie.
movie. I'm commenting on the ride.
I understand, but I'm saying it does go with the ride. Like, she barely wore a dress. She wasn't a princess to begin with.
Oh, you're commenting on what I said the other day because I said that on the live. I'm like, she's only in a dress at the end. I know what you're commenting on. Okay. Yeah. Copy that. That's fair. But what I'm saying is if they would have done an original like boat ride for her, a la what they've done with Rapunzel's boat ride in Tokyo, they could have done something really enchanting and magnificent and not a retheme that's cheap. So I don't know.
Okay.
That's just me.
Yeah.
That's just me.
No.
Look,
I mean, more than one black princess in a park would be too much. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, you put her in a different park then. You got 3 other parks.
Right.
That's
right.
a joke. That's a joke. But look, that's what I hate too, is like that we measure things that way. But you know, the funny thing about Hollywood is Hollywood is the only business where bigotry is totally overt and accepted. Only in Hollywood can you in a casting call literally ask for a type of person that if you put in any other job description would get you fired.
Yeah.
Only in Hollywood can you do that. So anyway, what did you actually call to talk about, Heather?
I called to continue our conversation on beloved Elon.
Oh no, what about him?
And well, I just have a quick question for you. It's silliness, really. But you know, it came out. He made an announcement yesterday because he's already fathered so many children, and he wants us to embrace extreme breeding.
Right.
And he made a public announcement about this.
Right.
This new government official has asked us all to embrace extreme breeding. Amen. So, you know, I'm just wondering, have you done your portion yet? Because
oh my God,
I don't know. I feel like you're slacking.
I'm slacking.
You know?
I'm slacking.
Yeah.
Have I done my portion yet? Not for a lack of trying. But no, listen, first of all, we don't want little Elons running around. Number one, I think we've got enough of those. Number one. Number two, I don't,
so many.
You're horrible. Number two, I don't think children should be raising children. And honestly, I would be a very selfish parent. So, you know, unless I'm just, you know, like a bee pollinating and flying away, like then it's not happening. You know what I mean? I just don't think I think as much as I would love to pour all of this energy and love of Disney and just, you know, being a big kid into a kid, I don't think it's for me. At least not now. I'm too focused on building my business.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and that's
hey,
fair.
listen, like a live Disney dating show, I'm not you know, against this idea.
I mean,
Not in the name
would
of
it
procreation.
be wrong? I mean, like, we could set you up with a lineup of beautiful, you know,
Oh my
women
God.
that.
All right. Do it. I'm commissioning this
why not?
project.
You know, a dating show for Royce. It'd be fun.
Listen, you work
Anyway.
on it. You work on it, and I'm going to have Ellis help you. He'll be your assistant. So whatever, like any paperwork you need done, get it to Ellis. All right. And you do it. We'll do
All right.
a Disney dating show, a different date, a different restaurant live on TikTok. Okay. 10 dates. Only one will win. I mean, let's be honest. They're
Not
all
a
losing
problem.
if they're going out on a date with me. I'm the only one winning in that scenario. Maybe Ellis too.
Oh, please. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for calling in with the good questions.
On that note,
Well, no, I mean, like, you
You're
literally,
welcome.
like, think about
Talk
what
to
you
you
just asked me. I'm blushing. It's embarrassing, but I appreciate you.
all right.
Hilarious. All right.
Talk to you later.
Goodbye, Heather.
Bye.
I like that she's a regular caller, though. Like, that's what I love about radio, regular callers. Thank you for making me blush. All right, you're on the air. Who's this? Hello. 5.
Hey, Royce, you got me? Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on.
Hey, you're locked in.
This is Jay.
Hey, now.
Hey, just want to get your thoughts on a couple of things for you. I wanted to get your thoughts on, you watched the christening last night for the Disney Treasure in New York City?
I saw a clip of it, of like the drone show. I did see What was it? It wasn't the Death Star. What did they do? They did something pretty epic.
It may have been the Snow White, the evil princess from Snow White, I think. The Mirror, maybe.
Oh, no. They did, oh my gosh, Madame Leota is what they did.
Oh, yeah. It seems as though we've reached this era of everything's getting replaced with drones now, including champagne christenings. What happened to the old days where we just slammed the champagne bottle against the boat and that was the official christening.
Yeah, I mean, I like the drones, and it's kind of limitless. The Disney drone show they did in Springs was only 800 drones. Look at what they're doing when they put thousands of drones into the equation, and it's great for the environment.
Yeah.
And I'm all for that.
Yeah, it seems to be a showcase, obviously, to the Disney corporate office. It's kind of a hush hush. Hey, we're going to go make a pit stop in New York and show off the boat, which is totally fine. I thought the video was fine. Well, I say video broadcast. It looked like it was a short 10, 15 minute segment that was posted on the Disney Parks website. And Jordan Sparks did her thing, did a little song and dance, and then they did the drone show. But I guess the other thing I was calling about was the whole conversation about replacing Bob Iger. I know that there's been candidates out there that have been highlighted the potential takeover for Bob, I believe in 2026. Someone and a lot of different sources are saying maybe Dana Walden's probably going to be the front runner. My concern is, I guess, with Josh D'Amaro, because if he doesn't get picked, Disney's going to hurt badly if he leaves the company, because I got a strong feeling that if he's not selected, he's going to leave.
Well, I wish he would. I wish he would. He's horrible.
But I think he's done a great job with the parks. Now, granted, they've had some cleaning up to do in recent years, but just as far as keeping the imagination and keeping, kind of the spirit of live, of expansion, into some, getting rid of some older, sort of relic-y stuff, what they're doing with Animal Kingdom, for example. I think they're moving in the right direction. And it seems like it's a lot of that is his imprint. And I think that the company would be weaker if he moves on. And I guess my question to you is, you seem to come from the opinion that he needs to leave, but would it be possible for Disney to find another role for him that would not allow him to leave, that would have some of his influence that he could have not being CEO?
Well, I guess I'm having a hard time. Well, first of all, I mean, in many ways, you're admitting that he won't be CEO. I don't think he would make a good CEO. I don't see the value in keeping him. I'd be curious from your vantage point what you think he's brought to the parks. Expansion is always part of the deal, right? It's always talked about. And I would suggest that as of late, we've gotten a lot of blue sky and no real follow through. I feel like this last iteration of expansion announcements was sort of a race. But I can't think of any. I mean, I can think of more that has gone away under D'Amaro than has been added. But maybe I'm misguided.
I think maybe and correct me, I may be mistaken on this, but the expansion of the Disney Cruise Line, I don't know if D'Amaro's, I thought that was under his umbrella. And then obviously the examples I mentioned before, and just kind of having some new build outs. I mean, Disney's made some pretty, aggressive expansion announcements as of late in what they're doing with the parks. And it seems as though a lot of that, and I'm not in the offices every day, so I don't know for sure, but I assume a lot of that has something to do with D'Amaro's leadership. But I don't know, from that standpoint. And the only reason I say I'm assuming he's not going to be CEO is because multiple sources have said that maybe Walden or someone else outside the company may be being considered, or maybe the front runner, so to speak. And I think that you get into a situation where you have all these heads of different areas of Disney, Pitaro and Bergman and those guys, and someone's going to feel like they're shunned. Someone's going to feel like they should have gotten the job. And You don't want the company to suffer, and you don't want to, you want to make sure things are still maintaining and going in the right direction. And so didn't know if you had any thoughts on that or thought too much of it. I know we're a couple of years out.
Yeah. Now,
a year out, I could say.
You work for the company?
I do not work for the company.
Oh, okay. Cause you said in the office. I just wanted to clarify that. Yeah, look, I think what I would argue is, first of all, I don't think Dana Walden is the right choice. Some people will say, a female CEO is the way to go. I'm all for female leadership and female empowerment. I do believe in that. I also believe in the best possible candidate. I think the answer, albeit an outsider now, is bringing back an insider and bring back Staggs and Mayer. They won't miss a beat. Okay. Mayer's responsible for Disney Plus, for the success of Disney Plus. Staggs took the fall for Shanghai, but when it's all said and done, what was really to take the fault for? Because Shanghai's succeeding. So I argue, even if it's a difficult thing to pull off, acquire Candle Media and bring Staggs and Mayer back into the fold. I would suggest under D'Amaro's leadership, the parks are dirtier than ever. I would suggest that the desire to mask construction and just present a clean, front-facing consumer experience is no longer part of the mission. Everything is about churn. Get them in, get them out. Get them through the lightning lane. Get them to the next ride. Get them their food. Get them out. And so I don't think putting a guy like that anywhere else is necessary. And I certainly don't think him as CEO is a good idea. I just think that he's of an era that is data driven, and I understand the desire to cost cut, but I think being data driven and cutting costs for the sake of cutting costs without any consideration for the guest experience is detrimental to the brand. And there may be short-term gains to be had. And I think we're seeing that right now. And you can promise expansion as long as you want till the cows come home, which, by the way, I don't even really know what that means. I don't know where the cows went. Okay. But still, you can do all that and say all that to appease Wall Street. But when it's all said and done, look at their execution as of late. All they've ever done is fallen short. So they'll grab that DVC money. They'll keep popping up those Marriotts that they're building on property. That thing that I pass every day by the Poly is horrendous looking. And they're doing stencil art on the side of it that looks like somebody cut it out of a cricket. It just looks so bad. So yeah, in the immediate, so far so good. But if you want to bring in real solid leadership that's going to bring the company back to its core values, that's going to reinstate Walt's vision and his mission for the brand, then you bring in Staggs and Mayer.
And you think that the relationship that Disney needs to maintain both politically and with Wall Street, it shouldn't, it seems that may trump, for lack of a better term, it may be the decider on who they select of that group, meaning that's probably why Walden would be considered a favorite, just with being an entertainment insider and then probably having some connections with decision makers. It would make total sense.
Yeah, but Dana Walden's a huge supporter of the Democrat Party, so her insiders are on the outside right now. So I don't even know if that matters.
Yeah, I think it would be more so with if there's anything to be decided or anything, if there's any facilitation with the investors, I think maybe she might be the stronger candidate.
Well, I think she'd be the safer candidate because she comes from a studio. She's got a proven track record. Whether she has an understanding of the brand, I don't know. I'll take her over a D'Amaro any day of the week. I'll take her over most of the choices, but I would put her second, maybe even third to Staggs and Mayer. No D'Amaro. I don't want this guy from EA Sports. I don't need any more microtransactions in my life. Okay, it's too short-sighted. Well,
it can't be Pitaro because, ESPN is a disaster on its own. But, I think, if there's anything to be lost here, I think we may be talking about the same things. You still want to keep the imagination. You still want to keep the originality, and you still want to keep it, Disney staying Disney, and not being something that we don't recognize in the next 10 to 15 years. So,
well, and it's getting there. And listen, I mean, as much as I say Epic Universe isn't going to give them a run for their money in terms of, the immediate loss of business, it certainly should be the fuel that lights their fire and forces an internal recalibration. And parks and experiences are a massive part of the brand now. So you do need to have somebody at the top that understands that. And really, there is, just to argue all sides of this, there really is something to be said for bringing in fresh blood. Not that Dana Walden is pure fresh blood, but in many ways she kind of is. She's only really been there long enough to learn the ropes. But when Eisner came in from the outside and Wells came in from the outside, they were so disruptive in such a fantastic way because they weren't told this is the way we do things here at Disney. They were like, no. We're turning everything upside down, and they literally talk about that. Keys to the Kingdom by Kim Masters is such a fantastic read. It was like going around and picking up shells and looking underneath them and seeing what was hiding. I mean, everywhere they turned, they found gold within the company. And I would argue that new leadership could do the same because the company is sitting on so many assets that they're not monetizing. They're so focused on those short-term propositions, short-term large gains, as opposed to looking at what they're sitting on and that they're not mining. I talk about the Muppets all the time. The Muppets are $1 billion brand sitting in the idle position. I appreciate you calling. You have any other questions for me? All right, I think we lost him. Maybe he's at work. You're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Royce, it's Ethan.
Hey now.
How's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Hey, working hard to hardly work.
What's the difference?
I wanted to talk about a couple things, all of which has been recently brought up. The first about the whole Song of the South thing. As you know, I'm from Cleveland. I'm a huge Cleveland baseball fan. And, now they're called the Cleveland Guardians, but up until a couple of years ago, they were called the Cleveland Indians. And the reason why they switched, as you could imagine, is because people didn't like that the name was Indians. They thought it was insensitive. But to your point with Song of the South, a lot of people who were upset about the name Cleveland Indians didn't know the history of the name. Not going to get all into it because it's not Disney, but essentially when they created the name, there was a guy on the team who was Native American. At the time, it wasn't insensitive to call Native Americans Indians. And so really it was in honor of that player, and he loved it. His name was Luis Sockalexis, and he loved that name. He thought it was an honor to have the team named after him. So just to your point that I think a lot of people get upset about things that maybe they don't truly understand. I would go to the park all the time to the Guardian Stadium, and people would be protesting the name. And, not that there were people of different, ethnic denominations that were maybe insulted, but all the people there with signs and protests were all white people. So I just think that it's worth noting, like you had mentioned, that sometimes you kind of need to educate yourself on what truly is going on, what the background is, before you get upset over something.
Well, it's one thing to be sensitive and understanding, okay, and to, make your decisions based off of those things. It's another thing to censor. So I would suggest that when you have this false outrage, right, and the response is to wipe things out completely, when you choose to erase things from history is when we are doomed to repeat it. So I think there's real value in preserving these things purely for the learning experience. I mean, what you just said is, it was a different time. So we named this team in honor of a man. Now maybe that is no longer understood, but if it's no longer explained and it's no longer discussed, you can't expect anyone to understand it. You can't just rubber stamp understanding. You know, there has to be discourse. Yeah. What else is on your mind? Great point.
I definitely get that. Yeah, I mean, they've made some strides, and even in the transition of removing that name, you know, they had a logo that definitely was not acceptable. They removed that. But you're right. I mean, I think it goes both ways. You know, people should try to understand the history of it, but at the same time, if it's not discussed, if it's not, you know, put in front of you or in a way that makes it easy to do that research, then yeah, it's kind of on the business as well.
I mean, listen,
get that.
I'm Jewish. I was raised Jewish. If somebody said, let's take Schindler's List out of circulation, I'd say, well, aside from the fact Spielberg wouldn't let it happen, because literally, I mean, he made that movie for all the right reasons. But if somebody chose that fight, I'd say, what are you doing? That's a piece of, like, that is a glimpse into our past, and everybody should see that motion picture. Because there's something to be learned from it. So why would you pull it? Because the subject matter is offensive? Because nobody wants to watch all these people being, you know, corralled into a concentration camp that hurts the eyes to see? It's too offensive? That's absurd.
Yeah.
And I understand
completely.
from, like,
I mean, I would
go on.
Well, no, I was just gonna say I agree. I mean, you know, we've talked about it before. I've grown up Jewish as well, and it's kind of crazy even to think about things that are going on today. You know, it's because you're right. And I used to be a history teacher, and that's what I always told my students. I'm like, if they would ask, like, what's the point of this? Like, I'm not going to need this in the future. And I'm like, well, you know, history, first of all, can tend to repeat itself. But if you don't pay attention to the history, then you don't really understand why certain things are important today. And a lot is going on right now. You know, you have hate groups that are walking around. Like, again, I'm from Cleveland, just 2 hours south in Columbus, the state capital. There was a group of people who were walking down with swastika flags and, you know, yelling out anti-Jewish things. And, you know, doesn't need to get all political here, but it's
Ethan.
The point is, again, you got to know your history.
Ethan. That was Halloween. I'm kidding. It's Jewish humor. Sorry. I got you though. I finally got you back. I saw that video and yeah. I had to do that. He does this to me in the live all the time. So he like makes stuff up. So I got you though. Thank you very much. Thank you. Point on the leaderboard.
Of course.
But no, look, a little levity, right? I saw that video, and the problem I have is that that's been normalized now, and that's been encouraged. So even if you can say, well, listen, I voted for Trump because, you know, this is my issue, and he speaks to that, fine. But when somebody in his position chooses to use hateful rhetoric to get there, it gives these types of folks a free pass. I don't really like the whole, you know, this guy's Hitler analogy. You know, you could say, hey, this guy wants to be a fascist, but he's a wannabe, right? It's like he's like the Milli Vanilli of fascists, right? But it's the people around him that are truly dangerous. And if we call everybody Hitler, then we almost undercut how bad Hitler was. But you got to remember how Hitler got there. You know this, Ethan, because we were raised on this stuff. Hitler got there. If you go listen to the things Hitler would say to his people, he wasn't saying crazy things. He was promising things to them. He was offering them things that they needed to hear. That's what he leveraged. Through fear.
Yeah.
But Hitler wasn't Hitler didn't campaign on killing the Jews. Or the gypsies for that matter, because it wasn't just the Jews. This is, by the way, public service announcement. The term, what a gyp, is derogatory towards gypsies. Did you know that, Ethan?
I did not know that.
Well, now you know.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I did have another thing I wanted to bring up, if you're okay making that segue.
Please.
So, you know, I've always been a Disney person, always. I mean, my sisters are 10 years older than me, so since I was a little kid or baby, we were going to Disney because they wanted to go.
It wasn't just those two
raised me
groups.
on that. Sorry?
Sorry, somebody on TikTok said it wasn't just those two groups. I know, I stopped myself. It was a whole lot of groups. Anyway, go on.
Oh, yeah, sure. So, I've always had Disney at a significantly higher, limelight than Universal. We would go a lot, and again, being from Cleveland, a lot, I guess, is relative, but we would go to Universal every now and then. Maybe like every third trip, we would go for a day out of a whole week of being in Disney. So that's just to put it in perspective how much more I like Disney. But everything that's been new, like this whole new theme park that's been coming out with Universal, I've been a little worried about that for Disney. I understand, like, a lot of people are saying it might not take so much away from Disney in the grand scheme of things, but like even last night, I saw these photos that were posted about this Harry Potter hotel that is going to be coming out in Universal. And that looked insane. I mean, photos might not do it justice. You might get there, a whole bunch of things are janky. I'm not sure. But I guess for me, it's like, I want to go to Universal almost more than Disney right now. I'm not saying that's forever. Like I definitely every single day I wake up wanting to go to Disney World, but, I'm just worried that them, turning out this whole new park, and getting it out so fast. Like I feel like they just announced it and now it's already going to be here in what did they say, March or May or something?
Yeah, but they've been building it for years.
Do you find that to be any issue?
I think it's all good. No. And let me tell you why. First of all, I saw the picture of, and I don't know really anything about Harry Potter. Okay. I'm not a Harry Potter fan. I'm not anti-Harry Potter. So relax. Okay. I'm talking to you, Ethan, relax. But I saw this Battle at the Ministry attraction, this artwork. Is that what the ride's called? And then I saw the ride vehicles.
I'm not entirely sure.
Phenomenal looking. I want to go, to your point, I just want to go see it. Just to see it. Not because it's Harry Potter, because it just looks stunning. The scale, the detail looks stunning. The ride vehicles look stunning. I'm so excited to go to IAAPA tomorrow because I can't wait to just look at different ride vehicles. I geek out over that stuff. So I'm looking at these pictures having the same thought that you just vocalized, which is I want to go now. But it's got nothing to do with Disney for me. And I would argue, let's play out worst case scenario. Let's say Epic Universe opens up and erodes 50% of Disney's business, which will never happen. It's not even going to erode 5% of Disney's business. Okay? It's not even going to erode probably 1% of it. Let's just be honest. It's not going to erode any of Disney's business. It's only going to contribute. Okay? However, if it were to, it would only be because what they've delivered is so darn good that it would have that kind of draw. And if the quality is there, it would only force, through healthy competition, Disney to respond in kind. And that's how we got Galaxy's Edge. So it's never going to do that, obviously. I'm just making up a scenario. But there's nothing but a benefit for us eventually with Disney. Now, they're kind of ahead of the curve, obviously. Let's see how it plays out. Disney has nothing planned to answer to Epic Universe. And Villains Land is 2 rides and a restaurant is not the answer to Epic Universe. Okay? Because Villains Land, mark my words, will be 2 rides and a restaurant. That's the Disney expansion blueprint as of late. But I don't think in the long run, it's a bad thing. I think it'll force Disney to get their act together.
Well, I definitely hope so, because something that frustrates me, and you had posted this probably a few weeks ago now, and this is just a small detailed reference. At the new Tiana ride, I haven't been on it, but I've been, I follow your live. There's that sign that said Tiana, and it's just like a blank, like poster board kind of deal or whatever. And then you think about like the same thing with Splash Mountain, and it was so detailed and, articulate. And, do you know what I'm referring to?
I do. And the only way I could have justified that is if the ride was sponsored by FedEx Kinko's, because it looks like Canva art.
Well, my point is that, I'm not taking anything away from the ride, but there's nothing, correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing structurally different about that ride. It's just a different theming. Obviously, they have to put in like the different, animatronics and whatnot, and they did a whole bunch of different artistic stuff with it. But I felt like for what they did, that took so long that you would think that something like those signs would be a little bit more articulate, that they would put a little bit more into this. So I guess my thinking here, kind of tying this all together, is that you have this ride, which Splash Mountain has always been a focal point of Disney. I mean, at least for me. I mean, that was my favorite ride every single time I went. You have this ride as the focal point of Disney. You redo it. You do it in not, 100% way. Whereas you have Universal that's creating an entire park. And at least from what we've seen, obviously people could get there and they could have a whole bunch of stuff wrong. But at least from what we see, it looks like the details are immaculate. And that's another thing that worries me. And to your point again with the Villains Park, like 2 rides in a restaurant. Well, even at that, is it going to be flawless? And you said before, how about working on the other things that need updating or that need some help? Or, I just feel like some of the magic has been lost. And you've said so many times, Walt's vision has entirely been on the back burner. And that's what worries me about the future of Disney. And as someone that has loved Disney their entire life.
And there's a lot of folks that will tell you that Walt's vision wasn't, God's work. And a lot of people will say, well, stop looking at Walt like he was the Messiah. But Walt's vision, and I keep using this word, was a differentiator. It was his commitment to that vision that made Disney what it was. And now folks just look at Disney like another theme park. Couple things to unpack that you said. Boy, you said so much. I love Disney. All right. And I love Universal for different reasons. Okay. I really do. I think what you're seeing happening right now at Universal is they're probably bringing over a lot of hires from Imagineering and whatnot and letting them run free, where a lot of folks in Imagineering at Disney over the years have probably been restricted. And again, reminds me of the old days when Michael Eisner first showed up at Disney. He told his driver to take him to Glendale to Imagineering. The guy didn't remember how to get there because nobody talked to Imagineering anymore. They had been shut out. Imagine that. No pun intended. So I think what you've got is stuff like on Tiana's Bayou Adventure is a cost-cutting thing. And you have to ask yourself, how does this play out? Do they look at it and go, well, stop spending money because it's not going to get any better? Like, in other words, we already know that we've got a flop, so stop spending money. Don't go the extra mile because we don't need to, because we already know it's a flop. Or is it just simply don't go the extra mile because we don't need to? I don't know which one's worse. Cutting costs for the sake of cutting costs almost feels better to me than saying, hey, we know we've got a flop. Let's just save a few bucks here, I keep going back to that Star Wars video I watched a little bit of the other day, and she talks about how it's like they had all this stuff they announced for Galaxy's Edge that they were like going to do, and then they said, hey, so it was almost, to her point, this is not my concept, but she nailed it. It was almost like they said, hey, what if we took all this cool stuff we developed and instead of just giving it out to them for free in Galaxy's Edge, put it in a warehouse behind a paywall? So I think when it comes to something like a retheming, they're not spending any money on building the ride, right? The ride is already there.
Right. So
it's already inherently going to be a smaller budget, right? So now you're looking at a smaller budget and you're going, all right, if I'm cutting corners, and I've done budgeting in my life for television and stuff. I've been thrown a budget in my day and been told to save a couple $100K. All right. So if I'm given a budget for the retheme of Splash Mountain into Tiana's Bayou Adventure, right? And I realize that at the end of the day, we're wasting $100,000 on things that the average customer is never going to notice if we take them away. I'm going to take that $100,000 and go use it somewhere else. Especially, and I'm making up scenarios, all right? But especially if I can tell you I can make more out of that $100,000 by making a DVC lounge with that money right down the path. You know, I'm making up a scenario, but this is the way people think, right? So now what you say is, hey, you know what? I can solve another problem over here that we've been trying to solve for years with what to do with the shooting gallery. If I just extrapolate a little bit out of that Tiana's budget, okay, and now we can use that for another project over here. They're not going to notice. So like, you know, I mean, it's one or the other. Neither line of thinking's good,
Right.
but I'd almost rather have, you know, soulless cost cutting than them going, yeah, well, we bombed. Stop spending bad money. You know, don't put more bad money after that. Like, because then at that point you'd go, well, like in true Michael Eisner spirit, you'd spend as much money as you need to reverse course. Eisner was a hero at that. Michael Eisner, if you go read that book, Keys to the Kingdom, they'll talk about the development of Tower and the development of the Dolphin and Swan and all these buildings. And he would sometimes tell them, no, he wouldn't listen. He'd say, build it over here. And then he'd realize that it would mess up a sight line and he would spend millions of dollars to fix it. So even when he messed up, like at least the man admitted in his failure and then spent to adjust because he knew from the long term he had to preserve, you know, those principles that Walt set out for the brand. Nowadays, they just be like, just cut your losses.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Well, look, Royce, that's all I got, but I'm glad that I was able to chat real quick. Thanks for taking the time. And look, man, I think I can speak for all of us. You know, I think you're like our long lost older brother. And I appreciate you doing everything that you do. And I know that we all do. And, looking forward to hearing you the rest of the morning and seeing you later today.
Well, that's very kind, sir. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. 253-263-1540. These long-form conversations are what it's all about. Getting to speak to folks that have been watching me for some time and actually talk to you, not talk to your comments. It changes the whole thing, right? It really does. And I don't care if you derail me and take the conversation in a different direction like Heather did. That was actually kind of funny, but I don't mind. So call in. The number's up there on YouTube, 253-263-1540. Let's take a quick minute to talk about how you can support what we're doing here. Knocking out that gift goal, and I keep playing with it every day. Knocking out that gift goal on TikTok is going to help. I tried to make it something that everybody can chip in on. Okay. Knocking out the gift goal is going to help. Signing up for TV Remix is going to help. Going and following the podcast, adding the podcast to your podcast directory. Under the Influence is the name of the podcast. Giving it a review, giving it a rating, following on YouTube, following on Instagram. These are all things you can do. And if you want to book a trip, go to the website, fill out the form. These are all different things you can do to support the endeavor. We've got merchandise on the website. You can take home your own Joe Coconut, plus Joe Coconut sitting to my left. At the end of today's radio presentation, once I cut the live stream on YouTube and I cut the podcast recording on my mixer, I'll turn over to TikTok and we'll do what we call a team lift. Team lift is a way for team members to support the channel, okay? So we're slowly getting back into a groove here. We're still doing the parks. We're still doing everything else, the Fortnite, all these things. Unlike Ellis, I am not retired from Fortnite, all right? But we're focused on these long-form conversations Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning, 8:30 in the morning to about 11:30, give or take, at any given day. All right. And I'll talk to you when you call. So 253-263-1540. The phones are lighting up this morning. I love it. You are on the air. Who's this?
Yes, I'm just calling because I wanted to tell you that I'm very angry about something.
Oh.
I'm just angry because you posted a TikTok video about the People Mover and it was going to get refurbished. And I just can't find anything about that. And I'm just so angry.
Oh, I would be too. Yeah, listen, I mean, a cast member told me that on the live, so I posted the video. That's all I got. Seemed like a good thing to share with everybody.
I'm so kidding with you, Royce. This is Kennedy. I just called to say hi while I was shopping.
I mean, I knew it was a joke, but I was just playing along with it. First of all, I hope that now the ride doesn't close, so people are upset that it's still open.
All I know is that I just happened to catch that TikTok video and I started to read the comments and was like, holy cow, these people are getting crazy about this.
Yeah, I don't even like when my videos blow up anymore. It's almost like I shudder when I see that a video is blowing up because you just know you're inviting just Stungats. You know what I mean?
Well, I have nothing to argue with or add to any debate today. I just called while I'm shopping in the store to tell you that and to actually say hi in person since, I've been watching you for like a year.
I love that. And I messaged you the other day because people don't realize this. Like, I'm trying to do the market research and figure out what works and what doesn't. So thank you for taking the time to respond.
I know. And there's so many people that I guess I just shouldn't go to that point on the radio, but.
Oh, go say whatever you want.
You because they like Disney. Well, I just get tired of the fact that when I watch the live and I would comment, I would get so many messages from people, hate messages, telling me like, why are you supporting this guy? Why don't you go pay your own bills? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And it's kind of like, why don't you worry about your own financial situation? Because I'm not worried about mine. And I just think there's a lot of people that are very jealous, I guess, of what you do. And should just worry about their own situation. It just gets old. Like, I'm just watching a TikTok video to take myself out of the reality of my life from day to day, and I don't need people like, spamming me, blowing up my inbox because I choose to support you doing your thing. So it got to be very old. So that's one of the reasons why I just stopped commenting on there, because it's just frustrating listening to these people all the time.
Well, look, there's a lot of people out there with nothing but time on their hands. They're very miserable. I've also, invited a lot of folks to stop watching over the years, so it could be some of those. I'm very good at saying congratulations. You've been cordially invited to stop watching. I do that a lot because I want people to feel like they can hang out, So to your point, I'd much rather you hang out quietly than not hang out at all. But I try to curate an environment where folks are welcome. And when somebody starts to mess with that vibe or take up all the oxygen, I moderate. And because I don't have moderators, some of these people take it very personally. Some of these people just get upset because they feel like they have your attention, and then when they lose it, it's like scorned lover syndrome, or they feel like they've been abandoned, So worry about yourself, because clearly that's a them issue. It's funny to me that somebody would message you telling you to worry about yourself when they're clearly worried about other people.
Oh yeah, the hate that I got from giving gifts to you was just unreal. I was like, holy crap. Like, I would wake up with my inbox full of, and they were always from like users, just made up accounts all the time.
I'm sorry you get those messages. It's probably like 3 of the same people. I know who most of these people are because it's very obvious. But look, in many ways, you got to look at the positive. What does that mean? It means you're having an impact. Okay. If I wasn't a polarizing individual, all right, then nobody would have anything to say. But if people are responding at all, if people are engaging at all, if people are having a feeling at all, then I'm succeeding. So their hate is my success.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
Oh, nor am I. But I do love you sharing it with me, and I love you sharing it with the audience. And it just shows you how cuckoo some of these people are. And probably...
Oh, I know. And I Go ahead.
I was going to say probably why they spend most of their time on TikTok, because there's nobody that wants to talk to them in the real world.
Well, the issue is too, I can go to that level of being cuckoo as well, but I have to watch it just because of, I just have to watch what I say on TikTok. So, because of my profession and things that I do. So,
fair.
But I wanted to say that I support you. I still watch you. I'm silent most of the time, but I am still watching, and I'm glad that you're doing this radio and mixing things up a bit. And that's all really I had to say today.
Well, I appreciate you. Good luck on your shopping. And don't buy anything I wouldn't buy.
Thank you. Talk to you. That would be everything.
Well,
bye-bye, Roy.
Bye, Kennedy. It leaves you wide open to buy a lot. So sweet. But, look, that's the nature of the beast. I was talking to Eugenia about that the other day. I was messaging with her. You're on the air. Who's this? That hate is unfortunately part of the machine. You're on the air. Who's this?
It's Shelly Paul. How are you?
Shelly Paul, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Trying to stay warm up here in New York.
Oh, easier said than done.
Right. It's getting to be winter up here. It's ridiculous. I got to move to Florida soon.
You got to find a garbage can that's already on fire and just warm up.
Right, well, that's the city of Buffalo, so it's not hard to find.
Exactly. Nice to hear from you.
So I'm just calling to talk about, like, Tiana's. Like, Disney can try to preach to us to say that, you know, it needed to be updated, you know, Splash Mountain needed to be updated, it was time, blah, blah, blah. But you didn't give us a ride. You just changed the wardrobe. So to me, it was like, it was done just to shut people up. Like, let's put out the fire, let's stop talking about Splash Mountain and how it's this, that, and the third, and let's just change the wardrobe and give them a ride. They gave Tiana a broken down, dilapidated ride, and I thought it was, like, very unfair. Like, you had all that land behind Big Thunder that you could have given her own ride. Like you did the Frozen, like you've done to, you know, Snow White, you have that ride. So I just think that it was done just to shut up that conversation so we can move forward and not talk about that. So I'll let you unpack that when I get off. But my other thing is Villains Land. Everybody is so set against getting rid of that boat ride and Tom Sawyer Island. It's old. It's outdated. It's got to go. And Disney seems to be so much more about the money than they ever have been. They're not going to want you to stay on a 20-minute boat ride not spending money. So I think that's the other reason why they are like, oh, that's perfect place for Villains Land, because that's not making us any money. You get on a little raft, you go over to an island, you explore for 40 minutes to an hour or whatever. You get off, you get on a big boat, and you go that around the island for another 30 minutes. You're not giving us any money. So that's got to go.
Well,
Just
see,
like
I could
up every other ride.
But I could argue the flip side of that, because if you're buying Lightning Lane and you're doing mobile food ordering, now what they're able to do is disperse people into other areas of the park, keep lines down for food, keep lines down, and now you're still spending money. So I don't know about that.
Right. So
and by the way, Villains is going behind.
I think they need you to spend more money.
Well, okay.
I think it's just another step in the direction of getting you out of the, like, you're right, getting you out of the line. You're not waiting in line for a ride anymore. Lightning Lane, get you out of here, get you a mobile order, get you back into those stores to spend money. And they're looking at Magic Kingdom like, oh my God, we've got this spot here where people are just hanging out and lingering and they're not spending money. Let's update that and restructure it so that we can put 2 stores and a restaurant and a ride and make more money.
But
that's what I think it's all about.
It doesn't sound like to me that you actually agree with the sentiment, though. It sounds like to me you're just speaking through their mindset. I mean, how do you personally feel about Rivers of America?
I can tell you that I've been going to Disney since I was 4 years old. I'm now 50. And I can tell you that I can say about Rivers of America being on the boat, I've done it probably 5 times. I don't go because when I come down to Florida, it's a short turn and burn, couple days there and got to come back home. I don't have time to spend 30 minutes sitting on a boat baking in the sun as it drives me around a very boring, not much to look at attraction. I think the same thing about the train ride in Disney. It's a train wreck. While they had it down, they should have put some more things to look at. So I'm all for Villains Land. Don't get me wrong. I've already bought my new lounge fly for Villains Land. Like I'm ready to go something new in Magic Kingdom because it's not supposed to be a nostalgia park. That's what Disneyland is. This was supposed to be a park for people to go. It's a destination park. That's why we don't drip it in Christmas, is because it's a destination park. So I think it is time for the update. Let's do something different. But I don't like the fact that I think that it's just, they picked that area because there's not a big enough money draw.
So my question for you is, recognizing sort of the way they underdelivered with Tiana's, do you have concerns then that whatever they're going to do with this Cars expansion, because that's actually going to go where Rivers is, and then Villains will go beyond it. Do you have those same concerns for those expansions?
Oh, 100%. I think we got sold a bill of goods, right? I think we got the whole blue sky. This is what it's going to look like. It's going to be so big and flashy. It's going to be just the best thing since crunchy peanut butter. And I think it's it's going to get downplayed a lot. I think it's not going to be as good and as big as they thought it was, that they're making us want to believe it's going to be.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing I take umbrage with, and obviously this isn't personal, we're just discussing, and also two East Coasters, it'll sound like an argument anyway, but I take umbrage with old as a pejorative. You know, just because something is old doesn't mean it's bad or it's problematic or should be replaced. I think the fact that the Rivers of America is old is the idea of Liberty Square and the Rivers of America. You're supposed to look back at those old days and see unfettered opportunity. You're supposed to look out at that river and into those trees, okay, and see endless opportunity. That's supposed to represent, you know, pioneering the American dream. So I just question if you get rid of that, if you lose something that's so important. And you could say, well, it's going to be in Disneyland, but Magic Kingdom is where everybody goes. Disneyland is a locals park. Magic Kingdom, to your point, is the tourist destination. I kind of want as many people as possible to experience that glimpse of yesterday and hope that it inspires the next generation. That's what it represents. Maybe we're not teaching kids that. Maybe that's lost on these generations because their nose is buried in their phone. But that's what it is.
Right. I can agree with that. I can see that. My other issue is with this new multi-pass. Like, what do you think the end game is? So I support you, have for many years. And I watch other live streamers. I'm a Disneyaholic. I can't help it. It's too far for me to go every day, so I have to live vicariously through many. So I see like people, you know, the live streamers would rate the parks at, you know, a 10 out of 10. If you can't see the ground, if you're seeing more feet than you are ground, it's a very busy day, or people-y, as some of them say. I haven't heard or seen a lot of people saying that in their live streams. It seems to be more and more days are, oh, it's not busy. Oh, this wait time is only this, or this is that. And do you think that, like, given our economy, that there's just people just can't afford to do the Disney trips? Why do you think Disney would pick like this? Because that's everybody's riding the struggle bus, right?
Two different customers. The person that's going to buy all that nonsense is deep pocketed. The kind of person that's going to book the Grand Floridian without thinking twice. Okay, so what they're doing is, while they recognize they're shutting out the working class individual, and to your point, the reason you're watching all these lives is because you can't get down here as much. Okay, and there's a huge economic portion to that conversation for most people because they're being priced out. And now, when you could do 2 or 3 trips a year, it's that 1 trip a year. So what they're doing is they're continually gouging the deep pocketed folks because they recognize they've iced out the others. You know.
Do you think that they'll ever go back to the days where that family of 4 can afford to take the trip?
Well, I don't know who in their right mind lowers their prices when they have unlimited demand. So I have to be fair about that. If you were in their position and you had people lining up, why would you lower your prices if people keep paying on the increases? So I think until they hit that actual ceiling.
Yeah, that was kind of my point, is I don't think they have people that are just lining up anymore. It used to be like you either rope dropped a ride to get onto that more popular attraction because you weren't going to get on it for the rest of the day. I don't see that anymore with watching all the different live streams. See people getting on rides.
I'm not being that literal. What I'm saying is, when it comes to that multi-pass experience that costs hundreds of dollars, they're selling it out. They sold it out for Thanksgiving. So people are lining up to pay for that, is what I'm saying. So if they're lining up to pay for that, then they can just keep doing that in the pursuit of short-term larger gains. What you're talking about, okay, is the average working class consumer coming to the park on a whatever basis. You know? So if you're watching live streams and you see that there's huge gaps because there's nobody in the park, okay, it doesn't mean that Disney doesn't know they got a boatload of revenue coming up next week because they sold this multi-pass in Thanksgiving. So I don't think Disney cares anymore because I think they got the data so figured out that they're making all of their decisions based off of those deep-pocketed consumers that give them an endless demand. They're the ones. And by the way, not all of those deep-pocketed consumers are wealthy, right? They're the APs. They're the content creators. The people that will pay for the AP increase every single year without blinking. You know, these are the people that Disney's making money off of because I don't have to show up. When I didn't go to the park for a couple of weeks, I still had an AP. Disney got my money. So I do think that there's a difference now. And I don't think that you're going to see a change, to your point, to answer your question. I don't think you're going to see a change in that until they unfortunately hit that ceiling or they get leadership that's proactive enough to prevent it. And I don't know if they really care about preventing it. I think they're just going to keep milking. I think Disney's backup plan for all things in terms of parks and experiences is to sell off the 40 square miles of Disney World. I think that's where they're at. They're like, listen, keep things within the berm, even though they're really going outside the berm, so I'm being kind of figurative, but keep things kind of within where we've already built. All right. And let's save and preserve the rest of this land so we can hack it up later and sell it off because we don't know how to do anything else. And that's a sad way to operate.
It is. One last and final question, and I'll let you move on. Is,
sure.
Do you think that they're ever going to bring back the different price structures for out-of-state APs?
No. Again, it's a demand. They don't need to. No. Why? Why do they need to? It's been shown they don't have to.
Right. I agree. A lot of people are thinking that, you know, as time goes on, because they stopped it because of COVID, right? But a lot of people are thinking that, they'll bring it back. They'll at least bring down what is the next level, the social or the Pixie Pass. They'll bring that one down. I'm like, I don't think they're gonna, because there's people like me that are up here in New York, 1,200 miles away, that if I want my annual pass, I'm planning on buying one in February, that if I want one, I'm going to have to buy it. I have no choice.
Right. And you will.
You know, I would love to buy the next year down because I don't have a need to go week of Christmas. I don't have a need to go to the week of Thanksgiving. I can handle the blackout dates living this far away. But I don't think that they'll ever bring that back because they don't need to.
And they probably know what it's worth to them. You know, is it a net gain? Is it a net loss? You know, hey, it's better to get her to spend more money. If she's here too often at the lower tiered pass, even if it's got less access, if that gets her here too often as an out of stater, we're going to start losing money.
Right.
They have all that figured out.
Right now, I'm blessed because when I travel with my mom, she's a veteran, so we can go to the military base and get the military tickets, which are a pretty nice, 4-day hopper pass. The price is not bad at all.
Sure.
So that's what we generally do. But now I'm thinking I want my own AP first because it gives you more discounts, right? You get merch discounts, you get food discounts, you get exclusive stuff. So like after
first of all,
being there 4 times last year and 3 times this year.
I'm going to just say something right now. I think anybody who actually served in our military, I'm not talking about family members, but anybody that actually served should at least be able to go to the park for free once. Just at least once. If you put your life on the line for this country, I'm letting you in the park for free. At least once. I'm not saying every day, but if you fought to protect our freedoms, let them into Disney World. Why are we charging? How gross is that?
Right. So you can get a 4-day hopper pass for $350 from the military. Yeah. Do you know that Universal, if my mom were to go on January 1st to buy her ticket, it's $350 for her 3-day, 3-park pass, but it acts as an annual pass for, once she buys it, she can go to Universal from January 1st to December 15th, I think is the cutoff date for that $350.
Well, Universal's always seems to have done that. I at least remember the Hollywood Park was always that way. You'd buy a day pass and get a year. Because Universal for the longest time didn't have much to offer, particularly in Hollywood. So, but yeah, listen, if you were fighting for our freedoms, if you were putting your life on the line to protect our liberties, we do not do enough in this country to take care of our veterans. I always argue and complain about this all the time, but the VA, you want to talk about scams, the VA wastes billions of dollars annually. annually.
Oh, it's crazy.
Annually. It's a scam.
It's crazy.
We don't take care of our own.
And even going back to Disney, like Shades of Green.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever done your research on Shades of Green. It's smaller.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know at least a year in advance that you're going, and the transportation system is kind of. We've never stayed, so I can't really speak. I'm just speaking from what I've heard and what I've read.
Well, it's going to get worse.
It's better to stay at an all-star resort than to stay there, from what I've read and understand, because the transportation is a huge issue. And I'm like, those are your veterans.
It's about to get worse.
They should be getting. Yes. It's getting to be now. I'm telling you, like, as somebody who travels, we're looking at the last couple of trips I've done, I've looked at my time versus money, because you always say that it's a time versus money thing. So I look at my money and my time. We stayed off property not the last time before, and it was so much better. We rented a car. Yes, that cost a little bit more money, but we were able to leave the parks when we wanted to leave the parks. Parking was much easier than getting on a bus and traveling back and forth. And then we were able to go get dinner or late night snacks or whatever off property, and we didn't have to spend that $15 for the world's worst cheeseburger you've ever eaten at your resort.
Well, I used to feel like that. I used to feel like that wasn't the way to do it, but knowing what I know now, and knowing all of the tricks on parking that I won't disclose because I'm not going to ruin it for myself in the pursuit of views. All right. But, I would do it the same way. Knowing what I know now, I would do it the same way because it's become so expensive to stay on property. But I want to touch on something about Shades. Now that they're opening that DVC tower next to the Poly, I heard that they're no longer going to allow, and I don't know to what extent this will be true or how they'll prevent it, but that capacity that they had on the monorail for folks who wanted to walk over from Shades to the Poly monorail stop is going to go to the DVC tower, from what I've read, which means if you're at Shades, you'll take a bus.
I've heard that same thing. In fact, when we go to the base to talk to the representative that sells the tickets there, it said, when we were talking about Shades of Green, she had mentioned that the transportation is already bad and it's about to get worse.
Yeah,
but she didn't tell me like the details of why it was going to get worse. So that makes sense.
And they also redid the traffic pattern right over there. Again, this is a road I take every day. So that is going to become a very, very congested artery. That used to be a single lane road. So Reams would come down through the back, the back, if you're looking at the back of the park, the back right side of the Magic Kingdom, Reams comes down, and as you pass Disney University in the cast member parking lot, you pass the castle, you have Grand Floridian. And then as you come up there to the Polynesian, it used to be a single road, and then it would kind of split out to the left to go towards the Magic Kingdom parking lot, or it would break you out past the gas station out into the Epcot Resort area. And now, because of this new addition, they've reworked the traffic pattern because of the influx of traffic that's about to be there. Mark my words, that redesigned traffic pattern, as much as it's there to move the traffic, it isn't going to mitigate the traffic. That is going to be a nasty scene. So being stuck on a bus trying to get out of the Shades of Green or the Grand Floridian to go to any of the parks is going to become a real nightmare. And those folks either are military or at the Grand Flo, they're paying top dollar. So, suddenly they're undercutting some of their biggest customers or some of their most valuable customers.
Right. So, yeah, exactly. So suddenly staying at the All-Star starts to look better and better.
Staying off property. Shelley Paul, pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much, Shelley Paul. Such a great caller. I love that. We're going to keep going here on the phones. You are on the air, 786. Who is this?
Royce, hi, it's Danny. How are you?
I'm good, Danny. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so sad I wasn't able to listen in on Monday and Tuesday, but I figured I had time today. And so many things that happened in the last week that I realized that you were discussing today, and you covered a lot of it. So I wasn't sure exactly like where to come in and like speak on, but there's been a lot of talk today about either Rivers of America or Villains Land. And I had some thoughts on Villains Land when it was first announced, but I kind of got sidetracked more on the whole Cars Land ride, Rivers of America thing, and just didn't really revisit Villains Land. But I've had a little time to digest it, and a lot of talk today about Imagineering in general. And I called more to kind of make a statement than to ask a question, but I'm sure it'll devolve into questions. But I thought this for a while, mostly on the Disney side, on the Pixar side of films. And I think I'm seeing it in the parks too. I feel that Imagineering at Disney is all but dead in the way that most of us knew it. And in terms of that being about Villains Land, I have very low expectations about what they're going to do there. Number one, how long it's going to take, how much money is going to be poured into it, what it's going to look like in the end, what it'll bring to the park in general. I'm not excited about it in the least. I don't have faith that what most of us have been clamoring for decades in terms of a villain-themed either land or separate gate completely, I don't see that happening. I have no faith in it at all as it stands right now. And it's mostly due to the fact that I think that Imagineering is dead. All we see are sequels. Some of the animation itself is shoddy. The live actions, they screw them up every time that they try to do a live action version of something. It's a mess. I just don't see how they're going to, like, where's the leadership to get Imagineering to where it used to be? The restrictions, like you mentioned, I think are just way too much.
Well, I think we're talking about two different things for a moment, because Imagineering is your theme parks, okay, and other experiences. And then what we're talking about is the motion picture division. So maybe the statement is creativity at the Walt Disney Company is suffering greatly. You know, I don't think Imagineering is completely dead because of what they're doing over in Tokyo. And I don't apologize for bringing up Tokyo as much as I do, but there's a reason I bring up Tokyo as much as I do, because that is the true shining beacon. Now, I haven't done Shanghai and Hong Kong and Paris, okay, but I'm pretty convinced that nothing holds a torch to Tokyo. Maybe there's something in Shanghai, okay, but generally speaking, the stuff that has come out of Tokyo is proof that Imagineering can do it. They have to be given the freedom to do it. They have to be given the budget to do it. And I think that you're talking about a Walt Disney Company, because obviously Tokyo is the Oriental Land Company. I think you're talking about a Walt Disney Company as a whole that is devoid of creativity.
Oh, absolutely. The fact that you've spoken so much about Tokyo, I don't think you should stop at all. I think it helps us to really see the difference. And obviously, a company that runs Tokyo Disneyland has allowed creativity to flourish, which is why they have the caliber of rides that they do. Over here, it's the complete opposite. I mean, there was that discussion that was just happening a few minutes ago about Rivers of America and getting rid of it just because, and again, maybe it was more playing like a devil's advocate role about how Disney views that area and how putting something there can generate more revenue. I don't disagree with that, in terms of how they might be looking at the addition of a Cars Land and taking away Rivers of America. I will say and this is the part that I have a hard time with, if someone is looking at that area, whether it's Disney as a company, or a guest coming in, if they're looking at that area as a waste of space, they're missing the point entirely.
Well, right. And a ride is not a cost center.
If you go to Galaxy's Edge, the actual space that people have to walk around and do things in is not huge. A lot of it is taken up by the aesthetics, as it should, because I should feel immersed in that world when I'm going into a world that's supposed to be not of my own. So, aesthetics are a number one component in any park that you visit. And Disney has always, as you said, differentiated itself from everything else, almost to the point of not being considered a theme park, but a true experience, a reflection of the things that we've seen on screen, whether it's in animation or live action. I should feel immersed. And that's why I would pick going to a Disney park over any other option that I had available to me because of that immersion. So if I'm going to go to an area that's called Liberty Square or Frontierland, I should at least feel like I've been transported into something, an area that I've never been to before, a time I've never obviously been to before because it's a bygone era. I don't feel like Cars, and who even like sees Cars or talks about Cars, like that was when my children were extremely small. I don't even think it's an IP that at this point in the Florida park needs attention, and certainly not at the expense of Rivers of America, of the overall aesthetics of Frontierland and Liberty Square. I don't want to hear those cars zooming around. I think it's going to be irritating as hell. And then to then know that I'm going to have to squeeze myself through an already congested area at some point to now access another part in the back of it where that could have gone someplace else complete. I don't know. Every time I go around in circles in my mind thinking about how this is all going to actually play out and what will the reality look like, I think it's going to take away from every other existing experience. I don't think that either Tiana's Bayou or Big Thunder Mountain or the Haunted Mansion for that matter, none of those rides are going to feel the same because you're going to have this thing there in the middle that is just kind of, shoved in there for the purposes of trying to take care of another problem that could be taken care of and affect the overall aesthetics of it. They're doing it in every single park. It's not just Magic Kingdom, although I think that one is the one that kind of hits people the worst because it's just nostalgia mixed with knowing that area will never look and feel the same ever. And again, for people that are all for progress, I am too. But progress should not come at the expense of the overall experience. And there's too much congestion and concrete already as it is to stuff that in there. I don't know. I don't think that people that are for it or that are okay with the concept of bringing in something new realize how much that area will forever be changed. And I don't think in a positive manner until they actually see it. And then they will be the ones that will be saying, you know what? I don't think that was a good idea.
Well, especially when they underdeliver. That's the other part of this, right? You're talking about the Villains Land expansion. And all I can think of is black paint. Like that entire land is just going to be everything that Disney doesn't want to do with detail. They're going to do with black paint. Okay. And it'll just be like, knock it out. It'll fall into the background. And I worry for that because, look, I like Galaxy's Edge. Yeah, great. It's immersion, But they underdelivered everything they told us we were getting with that land. Underdelivered everything that they told us we were getting. So it's almost a guarantee that we're going to get a whole heck of a lot less. And by the way, how much did they really promise us with Villain's Land? You know? So we'll see. Look at Pandora. Pandora is supposed to be this really fantastic nighttime experience. Most of the lights are broken. They're very, very dim. And the park hours aren't even there late enough most of the time for you to experience it anyway. So, I don't know. And I look at Villains like that. To me, Villains is looks like a nighttime land, a nighttime experience, right? Like I want to go in there and I want to see molten lava and volcanic, eruptions. Like I want to feel like, I'm on another world, in another world. It's supposed to be otherworldly. And I fear what we're going to get is a Galaxy's Edge, which I like. Right? It feels like Star Wars, but what is it? It's a shopping mall, 2 rides, a couple quick service spots to get a bite to eat and you're out. It's what they originally pitched for Galaxy's Edge was full immersion. You'd have bounty hunters following you around the land. You would build up a profile. There was supposed to be a show. We didn't get any of that. We didn't get any of that stuff.
I don't think that anything that Disney has promised in the last maybe 10 years has even come close to what they've delivered.
And that's
Perhaps
understood.
Guardians of the Galaxy as a ride, maybe, but everything else, I don't even know how that test track is going to look like. That has me really concerned because that is literally my favorite ride.
Well, it's a retheme, right? They're not going to invest a dime in changing the ride track. That So you're getting a retheme. And I'm reminded of the Back to the Future ride at Universal Hollywood. The Back to the Future ride at Universal Hollywood was, in my opinion, a top tier attraction. The Universal Hollywood retheming of the Back to the Future ride was The Simpsons. And all they did was paint everything on the outside, do some flat 2D character cutouts, okay, and a very, very cheap, slapdash retheming of everything down to the ride vehicles. And it was like you walked in there and you could see everything that was changed. Obviously, it's a retheme, but it's almost like it was so poorly done, in my opinion, that everything that was changed almost jumped out at you, if that makes sense. And it was just it was so cheap. And I think it's still there to this day. I think they might be getting rid of it. But I was like, bring back the Back to the Future ride. This is, again, less is more. You had less going on in the queue, but the ride was fantastic. But all they opted to do was the cheapest possible retheming. So it's a choice. It's a choice. We'll see.
Which is what happened to Tiana's Bayou, which is why I have no faith.
Right.
Because it took a heck of a long time to deliver what they delivered, which was a retheme in the most basic way possible. The ride itself, nothing changed, which is fine because I like the ride as it was, the actual ride itself. But everything that they put in, that was a waste of money, a waste of time, all for another agenda that had nothing to do with giving guests a better experience, giving Tiana what she deserved, which should have been her own ride completely in another part of the park, not in Frontierland. But again, that's why I have little to no faith in what Villain's Land will look like as a reality. And whenever that happens, because I'm figuring I might have grandchildren by the time that comes out.
Oh my. Listen, I'm going to just say something that might be marginally controversial. Okay. But when it comes to Liberty Square and it comes to the Rivers of America and it comes to Frontierland and it comes to Hall of Presidents and all these things, it speaks to American heritage. It speaks to this nation's history, right? It speaks to the foundation of this nation, which is still so young. But somehow it's become taboo to be patriotic in this country. And that drives me up a wall. We were talking about our veterans earlier. It drives me up a wall that being patriotic has become politicized. So I fear a lot of this ultimately is a desire to kind of wipe out some of that stuff. You know, even if the motivation for getting rid of rivers was operational, okay, because I don't buy the capacity argument at all. I don't buy it at all. All right. So I just think, like, when you start to wipe out these things and you start to stop talking about the American dream, you know, then you really start to tear at the fiber of what I at least found to be very inspiring as a child. The idea that somebody could grow up and become a Walt Disney or a Jim Henson or a George Lucas was so awe-inspiring to me. One of my biggest fascinations as a kid was a garage startup. Okay? The idea of a garage startup is as American as apple pie. Now, I'm very fortunate to say that I've had a garage startup in my day. Never thought I would. There's a lot of things I never thought I'd do that I wanted to do. But I've experienced taking nothing in your garage and turning it into something, literally to the extent that it became a multi-million-dollar endeavor, okay, at the time, at the height, you know, between revenue and investors and all of this. I took this little thing in my garage and I built it into this dream for me. And for several years, it allowed me to get paid to play every day, much like I do with y'all now. All right? But it was literally the American dream as presented to me as a child through folks like Walt Disney and Jim Henson and George Lucas and Steven Spielberg that inspired me to do anything and everything that I've ever done in my life. So I just fear that it's lost on people what the real intrinsic value of Main Street is, what the real intrinsic value of Liberty Square is, Rivers of America, Frontierland. It represents something. And it saddens me that that message is lost on so many. Because what I'd like to think, okay, is that the next generation of doctors and scientists and legislators and world leaders could be inspired by looking out over that river. And a lot of people will laugh and go, oh, that's, but you're the cynic. You're the cynic. I can tell you, I have the video somewhere. I'm not even sure I ever released it. When I first moved to Disney World and I first had my AP, I grabbed a iridescent popcorn bucket. It was a green popcorn bucket, the Mickey Mouse balloon ears, filled with popcorn. I went right up to where the geyser fountain was, which I think is off all the time now, by Thunder Mountain. And I sat looking at the river overlooking Tom Sawyer Island. And I just sat there thinking about my future. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm old. But to me, that's where you get inspiration.
Well, I'm older than you, Roy.
Yeah, maybe not. I'm a very old soul. And according to Heather's call earlier,
I'll let you go, but
no, you can stay on as long as you want. I got time to fill. I don't care.
Not doing enough of your part.
Yeah, well, apparently, but listen,
no, I
can't win.
That's okay. Some of us are doing more than our part, so it's okay.
I could make a joke that I know you would find funny, but somebody will get offended.
Oh, well, when I go to the Magic Kingdom, I can skip certain parts of it if I'm pressed for time, and I'm just trying to, get the most out of my experience there for whatever time I'm at. But I will never skip Frontierland, ever. I know people, like how when you go to Epcot and people are like, okay, which part of World Showcase do you begin at? Do you do Mexico or do you do Canada? Mm-hmm. And that's like always like a hot point of debate, which I think is ridiculous.
I do
just
too.
Go wherever you feel like.
Right. Who cares? Actually, if that's your conversation, you might have a drinking problem.
I'm not going to start with I love a tequila, but I'm not going to start at 11 in the morning. But okay, that's just me.
Right.
When I go to Magic Kingdom, I never start in Tomorrowland. And I know a lot of people do. And again, it's a preference for what you want to do first or how you want to spend your time when you're at the park. I always go to Adventureland and Frontierland first because for me, there is a intrinsic nostalgic value to that area. Number one, just because of the aesthetics of it. But number two, and I'll say this, I am the child of an immigrant. So I'm a first generation, American here. And the first time that we ever visited the park, back when it was just, Magic Kingdom.
Right.
They were still building Epcot. And when we went there, the first place that my grandparents, who didn't speak a lick of English, wanted to go to, because they'd heard from other people that had visited, was they wanted to go to Frontierland. First place. It wasn't even, like, they could have just stayed there the whole time and they would have been happy. And the first place they wanted to go in the Frontierland Liberty Square area was Hall of Presidents as immigrants.
I love that. Cuban immigrants.
And I'll never forget that. And I think perhaps that experience makes me a little bit more passionate about that area and my fears as to what Disney's ultimate goal is with that area of the park, of my fear of it completely disappearing. And having that intrinsic part of American history not being a part of it. I don't see why that would bother anyone, whether it's someone who's American or not.
The Hall of Presidents.
To me, my grandparents and my parents.
Why do we have a delay today? You're only in Miami.
I was just about to say that they always, when we went to the park subsequently,
yeah,
and it became sort of like a tradition just to go to that area, and I've carried it on, whether consciously or subconsciously, I don't know, but they always used to tell me when we were in that area, they would say to me, "This is your history now."
Right. And but the story of...
We made sure that this was your history.
The story that is told. Okay, everybody take off your stupid party hats. I hate the two-party system so much. It's like two really shitty gangs, okay? That's all it is, all right? The story that is told in the Hall of Presidents, how do you not sit there with your eyes wide open, listen to the story of our country and not get emotional? Every child should have to go sit there and watch that. It is such an amazing presentation. Not only that, but it was Roy's gift to Walt. So there's not just national history there, there's corporate history there. Not that anyone cares. Okay, and nothing drives me more bonkers than sitting in the presentation of the Hall of Presidents and hearing people boo or cheer for an animatronic. You ever see No Country for Old Men? You ever see No Country for Old Men?
Yeah.
You know that he walks around.
I have.
You know what's his Javier Bardem walks around with the cattle prod. You know where I'm going with this? Do you know where I'm going with this?
I'm
just saying.
Admit, I stopped going in there.
I'm just saying I can practice restraint. I'm not going to use it on everybody.
Oh no, I would, which is why no one would give me a cattle prod.
It is a really good movie, by the way. If you've not seen it,
I will say this about that area. I'm hoping that the outcry would be so intense if they even hinted at dismantling. I don't think they would for many reasons.
Oh, I do. Oh,
I think it would be a much
I think
harder sell to the general public.
No, it's not. Getting rid of Rivers of America is the first step in getting rid of Liberty Square.
I mean, I can see both sides of it. I mean, my cynical side tells me they'll do it if they see that things that they propose happen and there's little to no pushback. Then they'll keep on expanding to other areas that they want to get rid of, to the point that all of that area will one day not be there.
I agree.
Neither Frontierland nor definitely Liberty Square will not be there as we know it.
Look, I don't know.
They'll just retheme it or they'll call it something else.
I don't know how much they're listening. All right. But from the little bit of rumblings I hear, okay, they didn't expect the outcry that they're getting. But like I've said time and time again, my concern is that when you go online, I still see people crying about Splash Mountain. And y'all know how I feel about that attraction, but get over it, right? So my concern is that when everything is at the same level, it just all falls on deaf ears. I am worried that once they get that river gone, Hall of Presidents is next. And to rip out the Hall of Presidents, I mean, that doesn't exist in Disneyland. What's your argument for getting rid of that? You know? I love the Hall of Presidents. I can't stream it as much as I want to because most adults can't hold their composure and be civilized. So the times that I tend to do it, I turn off the comments. But I adore the Hall of Presidents.
If they do get rid of it, I don't think I could bring myself to go back to the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish
it would be too much of a blow for me.
I wish there was, this much passion behind the whole situation with Rivers that there was behind Splash. In theory, it's two different sides of the coin if you're talking about, ideologies or compartmentalizing people for a moment. Okay. But they were so loud about Splash Mountain, they got their way. Why can't we accomplish that with Rivers? Maybe we will. Look, between you and I and nobody who's
Rivers
listening.
Is way more important than what happened.
Between you and I and nobody who's listening, I totally have it within me to chain myself to Tom Sawyer Island. Not that it's the island I'm saving. It would just make it harder for them to get to me. I totally have that within me. Just don't tell anybody I'm saying this. It's between you and I, okay? Just a little fantasy I have. And, then maybe it's no, I'm not leaving, and I'm there and the bulldozers are coming for me and I'm still standing there like Lisa Simpson. Remember when Lisa Simpson was up in the tree? That'll be my Lisa Simpson moment. But the thing is, nobody else will do it. I'll be alone because everybody else will be afraid of losing their park pass.
Oh, I don't care about my park pass.
I don't care about my park pass. I'll go build a friggin' amusement park if I want to. The only thing stopping me from that is money. You know what I mean? So no. I'm not afraid of losing my park pass either. We can do it together, Danny. Listen.
Let me know when I'll be there.
We both have it in our blood. I'm Italian. You're Cuban.
I'm not kidding, actually.
I'm not kidding either.
Yeah.
So we got two. Can we get a third? If we can get a third, we've just tripled the size of our army. I'll do it in a heartbeat. I'll just sit there. I'm not saying I'm going to be loud and obnoxious. I'll just sit there and I'm not leaving.
I can get crazy in a few languages.
Let's do it. Listen, I'll just sit there.
I can get crazy in a few languages, so.
Hey, listen, I just know all the right words in all the wrong languages. Or, wait, strike that, reverse it. But, look, I'll just sit there. I'll just sit there and be I'm in the middle of a very heated checkers game. Come back later. Now, sir, you need to go. You don't understand. I'm about to do a double jump here. It's been a long time since I've made this move. Come back later. Sir, we're trying to build a new ride. I don't care. I'm playing checkers. I won't leave. They'll have to drag me out of there, But it'll be too late by that point. They'll be dragging me out of there with the damn dumpster. Yeah. So, but I would do it. Like, I'm all for fighting. I mean, listen, I'm the kind of person that will get up and march in the streets. I've done it before in my life. I'll do it. I'm not saying a theme park is the place to really be, putting all of your fight into, but in the context of this conversation, I'm up for it. Listen, if they try to get rid of Carousel of Progress, I will chain myself to the doors. Okay, real talk. If they try to get rid of the Carousel of Progress, I'll chain myself to the doors. But at a certain point,
don't even say that.
Well, because they'll do it. I mean, they got to just get rid of the leadership at the top. To the gentleman who called in earlier about D'Amaro, he's part of the problem. He has no consideration for the legacy. Cast members love him because he blows smoke up their tuchus. Okay? D'Amaro will go in front of cast members and be like, "Oh, you all are amazing. Let me get down on my hands and knees and praise you. I can never do what you do." That's all he does is blow smoke. That's why they all love him. And he used to, kind of have a handsome face. Now he looks like a Haunted Mansion reject because he's getting all frail and withered and gray. Okay, and the cracks are starting to show. He's starting to look a little bit like a tweaker, if I'm being real. So I don't know what's going on over there. You're going to get me in trouble.
You're killing me, Royce.
You're going to get me in trouble. 253-263-1540. 253-263-1540. Helping me knock out the gift goal. Helping me knock out the gift goal on TikTok is going to show your support for what we're doing. And, it's actually the first day of Live Fest. Not that I care. So I set it to the Live Fest thing because even though I'm not competing in Live Fest, I'll obviously play to the leaderboard just because who wouldn't? I'm still obviously trying to rally gift goals and earn a living. But, the problem I have with Live Fest is I'm working for them and I'm tired of working for these big companies. I'm working for me, So whether it's TikTok or Disney, I'm tired of working for them. It's why I don't kiss their tuchus. I'm working for me. I'm building something for me. Before I let you go, do you have any other questions for me?
As you should.
What?
I want to keep on saying, just want to keep on saying to you, do what you're doing. This is working, and I think what you're building is important, just like you said, for yourself. Part of the American dream. So do it.
I appreciate that. I'll talk to you soon. And to the comment in the chat on TikTok about nobody having these conversations, that's exactly my point and why I'm taking the time to have these conversations. Because somebody has to. 253-263-1540. Now the other day, I think it was actually just yesterday, I was saying, where is the consumer advocacy? Where is the outcry for this botched Netflix stream the other night? And as I'm walking around the park yesterday, I see on my phone that somebody in Florida has started a class action lawsuit against Netflix for that fight. Not for the fight, but for the bad connectivity. And I applaud that. Now, I don't know what'll come of it. I'll keep you updated. But I saw that this gentleman, I guess, all right, his name is Ronald Denton. 3 days after the fight, he filed the lawsuit, and he said, where's the actual quote? There was something he said, I thought the wording was kind of funny. It wasn't the word struggle. I can't find the term he used, but he said something about, it was a little dramatic, okay? But nonetheless, Netflix responded to his accusations saying, we don't want to dismiss the poor experience of some members, and we know we have room for improvement. Well, that's after you sent out a tweet joking that even the stream was fighting to keep up. So, you did make light of it, and saying that you have room for improvement only reinforces my point that you knew you were launching a lackluster product, and you knew you'd get away with it. So you have room for improvement is code for, we know we could have done better, but we were just trying to see what we could do, right? In other words, listen, if this doesn't work, divide by 2 and know next time, if you have 30 million people watching, this is enough connectivity. You know what I'm saying? So that's an admission of guilt right there. That's an admission of guilt right there. So I don't know what's going to happen with this class action lawsuit. Obviously, I support it. All right. But I said the other day, where is the advocacy? And everybody wants to talk about the fight being rigged. It's not rigged. It's produced. It's produced. Sports are rigged. If you want to use the word rigged, my sister worked for the NBA. It's all rigged. Okay? It's all a show. So everybody just calm down. The more important thing to be discussing is delivering on quality to the customer. All right? That is another thing that I'm very passionate about. So good for this guy for standing up. I don't know what comes next. And with these class action lawsuits, anything can happen. Like anything can happen with a lawsuit in the first place. But ideally, this guy gets something going and a whole bunch of us can latch on to the class action lawsuit and get like 60 cents from Netflix or something like that, because inevitably that's what it'll be, right? Netflix will be forced in theory to pay out a ton of money divided by X, and then we all get enough money for I don't even know what. Well, you can't even buy anything with 60 cents anymore. So 253-263-1540. Lots of great callers this morning. Tomorrow is IAAPA. The way this is going to work is I'm going to go I've never done IAAPA before. All right. IAAPA is the theme park convention. And they're going to have animatronics on display. They're going to have full rides on display. They're going to have ride vehicles on display, VR on display, everything, water slides. So I'm so excited to go to IAAPA. I want to scope it out first, and then I intend to stream a little bit of it for y'all and share IAAPA with you. I mentioned yesterday I'm on the lookout for something at IAAPA on the STEAM and STEM kit side of things. I don't think I'll find it there, but there's a particular vendor that I intend to talk to who I've done business with before. But I'm super excited to see a bunch of different stuff at IAAPA and share that with you. So you'll probably get a vlog over there and then a live stream from IAAPA. But it's exciting. I've never done it before. My buddy invited me. Thank you for the invite. So I'm going to do that tomorrow morning. Like I said, I'll go walk it first and experience it for myself and then live stream IAAPA with you tomorrow. So that'll be something different. And on the front of IAAPA, on the front of New Rides, I bring this conversation back to Epic Universe. Because these theme park nerds are absolutely out of their mind. And I'm seeing people crying now that one of the show buildings in Epic Universe isn't fully themed. And it's like an aerial view, like from a helicopter. You're never going to get that view from inside the park. But the outrage over decisions being made in a theme park, and yes, I recognize the hypocrisy, because I'm talking about being outraged over rivers, but the perpetual outrage over theme parks, to me, is absurd. I'm all for having the conversation within the context of what we're talking about. Sure, I love Disney. And I think from a business perspective, the abolishing rivers is a bad decision from a business perspective. But most of these folks aren't talking business. They're just talking consumerism. And the outrage over things like this from these theme park nerds is too much. Like, you all need to wake up and start caring about real issues. I see so many people who have, an audience, a platform, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, wherever it may be, Twitter. And this is the fight you're choosing? Now, to my point earlier, if everything's at the same level, then when we're actually trying to be heard, it does a disservice, a la Rivers. But also, my larger point is these people get so bent out of shape over something they haven't even been privy to, okay? And I gotta believe most of it, again, is just clickbait and rage bait because they're monetizing. But why, and to the comment earlier about this current generation, where's the passion for real issues? I don't see it. If you cared just 1 iota of a percentage about real issues, the way you care about theme park decision making, maybe we could get some real things done in this world. Maybe we could affect real change. But like I said when I started these live radio presentations, we are about to enter 4 years of chaos, okay? And the idea of having these long conversations is to meet people in the middle. Because irrespective of where you may be today, all right, and much like I said to Ethan earlier, let history be a lesson. I just wish some of these folks cared a little bit more about the working class and real issues and first responders, okay, and the military and healthcare and education. I wish people cared about these things at the same level that they care about Epic Universe and some ride show building, some show building for a ride that may or not be themed at the bird's eye view. Like, who really cares? Who cares? And we keep feeding this cycle. We keep feeding this cycle. And they just keep making the same old nonsense content. It's silly to me. And that's why we're doing this, because there's more to life. And I refuse to have a platform and not use it without at least trying to affect a little positive change. You're on the air. Who's this? You're on the air. Who's this? My bad.
Hey, boys.
Oh, look who it is. It's Ellis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know your sister used to work for the NBA. That's really, really, really cool.
Is it really cool or is it really, really, really cool? How many reallys?
Really, really, really cool.
That's 3. I counted 3.
I make her really, really, really cool.
Really, really, really. Yeah, okay, that's still 3. You're consistent. What's up?
Wait, so what she used to do for the NBA?
Oh, is this just like a private conversation we're going to have on the radio? She used to work for the NBA. What did she... What, you're a big fan of the NBA?
Yeah.
You're a big fan of a lot of things.
I know I'm a big fan of a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you are like the ultimate consumer. What did she do for the NBA? I think she did like PR. I think she did PR. You know what PR is? Yeah. You know what PR stands for?
PR.
Stands for Puerto Rico. No, it also stands for public relations.
Okay.
Public relations. Public relations.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that means?
So like she didn't work like putting the teams and
She
stuff,
didn't play
right?
basketball, if
Just
that's
like
what she didn't.
No. I didn't ask about basketball. I know she didn't play basketball.
She was a center on the Celtics. My sister's Larry Bird.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
This is Larry Bird.
Do you know who Larry Bird is?
Yeah, he was a really good Celtics player.
Very good. Ellis, did you have a real question for me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, once I heard you talking about NBA, I don't know, I got interested.
Oh yeah? That you tuned in for that?
Yeah.
Do you know what the NBA stands for? Ellis, do you know what NBA stands for?
Yes, National Basketball League Association.
Well, that would be the NBLA, but close enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's good. I love the NBLA.
That's what it stands for.
We all do.
NBLA?
Yeah, well, that's what you said.
Yeah, I thought that's what it stands for, National Basketball League Association.
There's no... Okay, moving on. Did you have another question for me?
No, but isn't that what it stands for, though?
It's National Basketball Association.
Yeah, National Basketball Association.
Thank you, Peach, for dropping the number in the chat. Ellis.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
What do you mean, okay? I just said your name. What do you mean, okay?
What?
I was going to ask you a question.
Yeah. Ask me.
Thank you for the permission. I love when your voice goes up, by the way. Like your voice crescendos. Like, yeah. You know what I mean? You sound like a Three Stooge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean?
No.
No, you don't remember the Three Stooges?
No, not really.
Really? You were around for the release of The Wizard of Oz, but you don't remember the Three Stooges.
Oh, okay. Yes, I do. Curly, Larry, and Moe.
Who's feeding you information?
I don't know.
Who just told you that?
I just thought of it.
No, you didn't. Who just gave you that answer?
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't. Who's standing next to you? Is that Peter or is that your mother?
No, I just thought of Curly, Larry, and Moe.
No way. All right.
Yes, well.
All right. Then who's the other? Who's the fourth Three Stooge?
Shrimp.
No, Alice, who's giving you these answers?
I don't know.
Somebody's standing next to you. There's no way you know who Shemp is. There's no way you know who Shemp is.
There's no one standing next to me. Like, not even the ghost is standing next to me.
Not even a ghost? How would you know? You wouldn't, in theory, be able to see them.
Mm-hmm.
No, wait. There's no way you know who Shemp is. I refuse to believe. Who gave you that answer?
No one. I swear.
Hand the phone to the person you're looking at right now.
There's no one near me.
How did you know who Shemp was?
Because I saw it a long time ago.
Oy, Vezmir. I gotta talk to your mother. Where's your mom?
She's over at my sister's house.
All right. I'll text her after the show. I gotta be like, Stephanie, how does he know who Shemp is? There's no way you Googled that quick.
No, I didn't Google it.
No, you got Shemp like that. One more time. Who name all four Three Stooges?
Curly, Larry, Moe, and Shemp.
There's somebody standing next to you. There's no way you know that.
No, there is not.
I don't believe you.
I swear there's nobody standing next to me.
I'm going to need you to start calling in with a video connection. You're going to have to start FaceTiming in because I don't believe you knew who Shemp was. All right. Do you know the Marx Brothers?
No.
Name the Marx Brothers.
I don't know the Marx
Name
Brothers.
one Marx brother.
I really don't know them.
Yeah, but you said that about the Three Stooges, and then immediately you named them all.
I swear on my good, on whatever.
All right, wait. Let's not go listen. Let's not go swearing on dead relatives, number one, all right? Because then you will be standing next to a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Name one of the Marx brothers. And it's not Richard Marx, okay? I'll just take that one off the table.
Okay. I really don't know them. I've never heard of them.
You don't know who Harpo Marx is?
No.
Groucho?
No.
I'm done with you.
What?
But you know who Ray is. All right. Did you have a real question other than what did your sister do when she worked at the NBA besides her job?
Well, I was interested because I'm a fan. I like the NBA basketball.
I know you do. What am I supposed to do with that, Ellis?
I don't know.
Did you ever play NBA Jam?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the secret codes for NBA Jam?
No, but I did used to play it.
I do. Because I remember on the Genesis, you could be Bill Clinton and Al Gore. I remember those days. And you would type in ARK to be Bill Clinton in NBA Jam, and then you would type in NET to be Al Gore because it was Tennessee backwards. TENNET.
Okay.
And those were the secret codes to be Bill Clinton and Al Gore in NBA Jam.
So you could use them as a basketball player.
What did I just say?
Yes, that's what you said.
Yeah, well, why would you unlock them? Ellis, why would you unlock them and then not use them to play basketball? What would be the point? They're not running for office inside the game.
True, but having a president play for the NBA, that's kind of crazy.
You think I unlocked Bill Clinton in NBA Jam so we could play golf?
No.
All right. You don't know any of the Four Stooges, do you?
I just called them up.
It's three. Funny enough, there's 4 Three Stooges. Can you believe that?
No.
Yeah, well, believe it. All right. Ellis, I appreciate you. Are you going to go to Epic Universe?
Yes, I want to.
You're just saying that. You told me the other day, though, that you might be coming to Disney again soon.
Well, it's not permanently done, so.
You're not coming permanently.
No.
Oh, thank God. I mean, why? I mean, when?
Maybe maybe sometime next October.
Can you give me like 6 to
For
8
Halloween.
6 to 8 weeks heads up?
Yeah.
Heads notice. I don't think that's a phrase. You know what happens, Ellis? Sometimes you're moving so fast that you just miss words. You can relate.
No. My mom and I are thinking about coming next October for Halloween because I've never been there for Halloween.
He's not even listening to me. So so you might come next Halloween. So I have a year to plan my escape.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
No, don't plan your escape.
I'm going to Tokyo this time next year. No, I'm not even joking. I talked to Ellis. I talked about that yesterday.
Yeah, no, I heard it.
You should go to Tokyo.
But
Tell your mom that you want. Tell your mom you want to go to Tokyo.
I have no interest in going to Tokyo.
What do you mean you have no interest in going to Tokyo?
I like Disney World better.
Listen, I'm going to say something very controversial again. This is the second controversial statement I'm going to make. We are being ripped off in Orlando. We are being ripped off, Ellis.
What? Why am I being ripped off?
We're all being ripped off because they're underserving us. They're under-delivering on the magic. Why don't you want to go to Tokyo? Tokyo's where it's happening. Now listen to me. I'm going to Tokyo. Do you remember what you did to me last time I went to Tokyo? Not this last time, but the first time I went to Tokyo. You called me. It was 3 in the morning, and Ellis is calling me in Tokyo. 3 in the morning, Ellis. I'm trying to sleep in Tokyo. Don't call me next time I go to Tokyo.
Ring.
Excuse me?
I'm not going to call you.
What did you just say?
I said ring, ring, ring.
Oh, cute. We're doing the pretend phone thing again. Did Kathleen Kennedy ever call you back?
Yeah. No.
No, because you didn't leave her your number.
I did.
No, you did not leave her your number. You told me you just said, hi, Kathleen, it's Ellis. Did you even leave your name?
No, I called the Lucas Studios and they didn't have her in the directory or whatever it's called.
Oh my God, you really did call. They don't have Kathleen Kennedy in the Lucasfilm directory?
Yeah.
You might be breaking news. You telling me she got fired? Call back.
Maybe.
Call back. It'd be so funny if you got banned from Disney World for calling Lucasfilm. Call back.
Oh.
There's no way she's not in the directory.
If I call back.
What?
Yeah,
Ellis, I gotta go.
That's what the guy said.
Huh?
Okay.
What?
That's what the guy said, that she was not in the directory.
Yesterday you told me he transferred the call and you left the voicemail. That was 2 days ago. You told me you left you.
Right, but.
So what's the true story? Now I'm catching 2 different stories from you. The other day you said you called and left a message.
Well, yeah. And then I called back after I hung up with you. And then he looked in the directory and he said there was no Kathleen Kennedy in the directory.
But the first time there was.
Yeah.
Maybe you got her to quit. Maybe it was just 2 phone calls from Ellis and she gave up. Maybe you drove her Meshuggah. She threw her hands in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Can you do that with Bob Iger now?
No.
No, you won't call Bob. I'll give you his number.
I won't call. I don't want to call.
You don't want to call Bob Iger? What would you say to Bob Iger on the phone?
I don't want to call him.
No. But let's say he called you. In other words, I'll be Bob Iger, okay? All right?
Okay.
I'll pretend like I'm eating a sandwich because that's what he sounded like on the earnings call. Oh, hey, Ellis, it's Bob. How are you?
Good.
I heard you. Hold on. I got a pimento stuck in my teeth. I heard you had a question for me. What's up?
Nothing much, but what if you updated Figment?
Oh? Who's Figment? I said, who's Figment?
Figment of your imagination.
My imagination? I'm Bob Iger. I don't have an imagination.
Oh, okay.
All right, Ellis, I'll talk to you later. All right. Always Radio Gold with Ellis. Always Radio Gold. 253-263-1540. That is not a planned call, by the way. That is like literally the kind of call I have with Ellis when I'm not live. That is like my normal conversation with Ellis. And I have tears in my eyes. Oh, Lord. Oh, he's gold. 253-263. I literally have tears in my eyes. 1540. 253-263-1540. Oh my gosh. Help me by hitting out that gift goal on TikTok. Help me by hitting that gift goal on TikTok. I can't even speak right now. Oy vey, Izmir. Oh, Ellis. And he doesn't even want to go to Tokyo. Wait till he finds out that Ray's in Tokyo. Oh, man. All right. I have a little news. All right, I have a little news to get to. Let me try to maintain composure. First of all, you all know how much I go to Starbucks. I went to Starbucks the other day. This is like barely news, but I tried that turkey sage. It's like a croissant. What do they call it? They called it Danish. Excuse me. The turkey sage Danish. All right. Hardly a Danish. Very thin. No turkey. And I wouldn't know the sage if it slapped me across the face. All right. It was, and like, I get it. Starbucks is kind of plays to a different clientele than McDonald's or even Dunkin', but everything is so expensive. And you're charging like $5, $6 for this fakakta pastry, and there's nothing in it. I would have rather you just told me it was called an air Danish, and I would have been like, at least my expectations would have been managed. So I tried it because it was something different. It just, the value, like Starbucks has done a really fantastic job of competing with McDonald's. But what's fascinating to me about Starbucks is that they don't do food prep, so everything is prepackaged. They charge way more than McDonald's is charging for food. Okay. And they're not even, not that they need to be making it on site, but they're getting away with all prepackaged food. I mean, again, you want to talk about scams. It's unbelievable. I get a Trenta iced black coffee and this fakakta Danish, and it's like $13 and change, $14. It's like $5+ each plus tax. I remember the early days of Starbucks, okay, pre-drive-thrus. And it was all like sit down in a coffee shop, bring your laptop, especially in LA, because every other person in LA wants to write a script or has a script. So, Starbucks, you go and you do your thing. Like I remember the days of Perez Hilton and the early days of blogging. He'd go to the Coffee Bean and he'd on his laptop and do his thing. And then they said, no, we got to compete with McDonald's. So they added the drive-thrus. But I'm telling you that what a disappointment. What a disappointment. And because now I'm in a routine every morning, I get up early and I prep for this show. I have a choice. I go down the street. I want to get something to eat. So I have 3 options: McDonald's, Starbucks, or Dunkin' to get a morning coffee and a bite. Best deal they got going on right now is Dunkin'. You get a medium iced coffee. This is not sponsored, by the way. An egg and bacon and cheese bagel sandwich. And hash browns. And they arguably have the best hash browns you'll ever eat at Dunkin'. $6. $6. Needless to say, they know me there at Dunkin' now. But it's $6 for all of that. I go to even McDonald's. I can get 2 Egg McMuffins and a large iced black coffee for about $8. But if I go to Starbucks, that one large Trent, or even a Trenta ice black coffee and one pastry or one sandwich, you're pushing $15. It's absurd. I love Dunkin'. I prefer to call it Dunkin' Donuts. I get it. I love Dunkin'. And actually, I'm really enjoying their coffee a little bit more than any of the other places. But it's absurd how expensive this stuff is getting. It's absurd. 253-263-1540. It's a little Dunkin' inside the Walmart. And for the longest time, I pretended like it didn't exist. I think in my mind, I was like, that's not a real Dunkin', you know. And then one day, thank you for the Galaxy. Thank you. And then, thank you, Kennedy. And then one day, I just kind of discovered the $6 a meal deal and there was no turning back. Now, I gotta be honest. I'm always honest with you. So I go to McDonald's this morning. Nice and early. The sun is still coming up. And I just gotta be honest. So the girl who's serving the food from the window was a very unique looking individual. She was an attractive girl. And my human response was, what is this girl doing at McDonald's? Working at McDonald's, right? Like we're almost wired to have that thought. Like, oh, you're a good looking girl. And then I stopped myself and I thought, no, she's working an honest, respectable job. In today's climate, with the OF and all this crap out there, you know, there's no humility. So I caught the conventional thought process kicking in to go, what is, she's a very unique looking individual, you know, like just, you'd be like, wow, you don't see somebody that looks like that. A lot of people look the same. You look at, there's very distinguishing features. And I was like, what, but you know, good for you. You're working an honest job. In today's world, I gotta commend that. But I caught as a human being that thought kicking in. And I immediately was like, I got to share this on the radio because it's one of those things where we're almost conditioned to look at something like that and look down on it and go, why is she working here? As opposed to going, you know, good for you for, you know, getting up early, you know, before the sun comes up and doing your job. That can't be said for everybody anymore. So just a little anecdote I wanted to point out because I caught the conventional thought process kicking in. I do want to remind you, Kina is still raising money for North Carolina. You can get the email address on the Discord. So please, please, please go to the Discord and check that out. Help her community in North Carolina. We've done fantastic as a group together. So go check that out. Yesterday we had a huge impromptu conversation about musical theater at the end of the night. And I'm not surprised, but there are a lot of folks in this audience that share their love of musical theater. And I really enjoyed that conversation. I know folks said they were going to call in and talk about it. But we were starting to rattle off all these different shows and things. And I had mentioned my love of Little Shop. And I told a story that I'm going to kind of tell again briefly about how when I was an intern for the Jim Henson Company, I worked at the Muppet Workshop in Manhattan. And one of the coolest jobs I got to do was help transport Audrey 2 out of the warehouse onto a truck to go to the theater on Broadway. And as a kid that's been, you know, raised on theater, and I shouldn't say raised because my folks didn't raise me on theater. I raised myself on theater. I spent summers going to French Woods and doing lots of shows and immersing myself in productions and whatnot. So I wasn't raised on it by my folks per se. But I always found the escapism of musical theater because it's such an insane premise, right? The premise that in the middle of ordinary life you would break out into song is absurd. Now, as stated yesterday on the radio, I like to do that in my personal life. I'll walk around and, much like Nick, burst out into a little jingle. I find that kind of stuff to be silly and fun. But generally speaking, the escapism that you get from a musical, you don't get from a play. And it's the song, right? And it's the music. So yesterday we started talking about, I think I made the comment that I could beat anybody in the audience in a musical theater, like name that tune contest. So I'm not prepared to do that. You'd run into licensing issues with clips and whatnot. So I really can't do that on the podcast. Maybe we can set that up on the live. But I love the idea of talking musical theater with you. So give me a call. 253-263-1540. And I'm going to cut this up into a 2-part call-in conversation here for a minute. Okay. I'm going to bring us back to the top of the show. All right. So we're going to cover two pieces of musical, trivia, for lack of a better phrase. What is your favorite musical? That's the first thing. I'm going to talk to you about some of my favorites. But I also want to know, what do you think is the quintessential Disney song? So you have two topics you can call in on, all right? And I'm going to keep the phone lines open for the rest of the show. And you can call in and answer either of these. But we were talking about it in the chat. I think it'll make a great longer form conversation. What is your favorite musical theater production? Or what do you think the quintessential Disney song is? So for me, as far as musical theater is concerned, and again, drop that number in the chat, 253-263-1540. I figure if I give you 2 topics at the same time, it might up the potential for a caller. So my favorite musicals, as discussed yesterday, are Gypsy and The Music Man and Little Shop. I love those shows. Absolutely love those shows. Les Mis is another fantastic one. So I kind of already answered that question, but I want to hear what you think. But on the front of the quintessential Disney song, I bring it back to the top of the show. I would argue that the quintessential Disney song is either When You Wish Upon a Star or Zippity Doo-Dah. It's got to be one of the two. I can't think of another song that is more Disney than those two. And of course, Zippity Doo-Dah is as old as it's from Song of the South, so it's as old as time. And When You Wish Upon a Star, Disney magic, right? In a song, all wrapped up in a song. To me, it's got to be one of those two. So I want to know what you think. What is the quintessential Disney song? Maybe you think it's Be Our Guest. Personally, I lean toward Zippity Doo-Dah just because it's carefree. I could make an argument for Let's Go Fly a Kite. 253-263-1540. That, by the way, talking about musicals, that's another one. I went to French Woods Festival of the Theater Arts, and I was going to produce a Disney review for the youngest kids in camp. Right? So what we were going to do, because we did, as I told you yesterday, we did multiple musical theater productions every 3 weeks. So we were going to do a musical review with these kids. I was directing it, and there wasn't a script. We had a list of songs. And I had all these kids. I'm telling you, it was the greatest thing ever. And all of these kids singing Let's Go Fly. I'll never forget this memory. All of these kids in the theater, these little kids singing Let's Go Fly a Kite. And I remember climbing up into the rafters to get them to sing louder. I'm all the way up in the ceiling of the theater and getting all these kids to sing and project out and do their thing. And just, was such a wonderful little experience. I was directing these kids in a little Disney musical review. And it was one of those things where if anybody else was going to do it, they would have said, let's just phone it in, have the kids sing some songs and get out of there. I'm no. I was 20 something. I was I want that kid who's playing Tigger to be on a bungee cord. So I went down to the guy at Circus and I was I need y'all to rig a bungee in the rafters so that I can have the kid that's playing Tigger bouncing around the stage. And then we're going to fly the kids through the Peter Pan song. So I was doing all these things that nobody else would have done because it's the kids show, right? They do all of this stuff for the older kids in theater, but never for the little kids. And I was so excited. Okay. So excited to do this show. And I was dating this girl from college. And I brought her with me to this camp that I had gone my entire life. And we broke up. And I was young, and it took the wind out of me to the point that it knocked me into such a depression that I quit the show. And all of those things that I had set out to do were scrapped because the next person came in, and in true fashion, why do all these things? They won't notice the difference. A reoccurring theme again, right? Cut all of the cool things that I set out to accomplish. Okay. And to this day, do I regret quitting that opportunity. And every time I hear Let's Go Fly a Kite, I think of those kids sitting in those rafters, sitting in those seats in that theater, screaming out and projecting with the most excitement. And I feel like I let them down, you know? I really did. I feel like I let them down because I was taking them on this little journey, this little Disney review, and we were going to go above and beyond, and they were super excited because I was a big kid and I was going to show them that we didn't just have to do basically a glorified chorus, that we were actually going to do a little stage presentation and add some magic to it. And, you know, I let them down. And whenever I hear that song, that is what happens. I go through an emotional roller coaster. So for me, Let's Go Fly a Kite is on the top of that list too. Let's go to the phones. 312, you're on the air. I'm just telling you the truth, man. I really do feel like I let those little kids down that day. You're on the air.
Hey, Royce. Hey, Royce. It's Melissa. How are you?
I'm good, Melissa. How are you?
Good. We spoke on day one, and I have an answer to both of your questions. So the first one, the Disney song, I agree is definitely When You Wish Upon a Star. And it's so funny because it kind of connects to the answer to the other question. So I also did musical theater as a kid, and my first part ever was Jiminy Cricket, and I sang When You Wish Upon a Star. So that is like probably when my love for all things Disney started. So I totally agree with you on that one. And as far as musical, my favorite musical, and I hope you've seen this one, is Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Many times.
Which most people, I'm curious how many people listening have seen that one. Because it's not one of the Phantom of the Opera, Les Mis, but that is by far, I can listen to that entire soundtrack, start to finish, and be the narrator and do the entire thing.
But I feel that show was on Broadway. I mean, that show had its moment, no? In the spotlight. I feel like that show, there was a period in the late 90s where that show was popular.
Yes, it was. But it's funny because I don't see it running its course anymore. And I just think it's such a great one. So classic. The music's amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
Love it.
Now that's something that I'm surprised has never been made into a movie.
It would be fantastic. Someone to go and do that. It is amazing. And, love musical theater. Love that you did it. I love all that. You probably know way more than me. I stopped performing when I was in high school because I went over to the dance world, but my one regret in life is that I stopped doing my musical theater because I love it so much. So glad we could talk about it here.
So I have this real quick story I'll share with you. My high school was very sports driven, and I didn't do any theater in high school. It wasn't much there, and I didn't play an instrument. So my true self got to live every summer at theater arts camp, right? 9 weeks. My original enrollment was like 3 weeks. My parents came up to visit. I was like, I'm staying, and I just kept going. And I think I got to the point because I was basically, even though I was a camper, I was practically a staff member because I worked in the tech theater crew, and I was up all the time working on sets. You know, I was just way more a worker than a camper. So at a certain point, they stopped charging me to go, which my parents really enjoyed because it was it was like $3,000 for 3 weeks or something. This camp was very expensive, probably more than that. And so I felt like every summer was where I got to really express myself through theater, both on the tech side and on the performance side. And I'll never forget going to London with my camp group. All right. And we went and we did so many different things, but we went to Stratford upon Avon. All right. Which is where Shakespeare's house is. We also went to the Globe Theater, which was super cool because I love Shakespeare, and Shakespeare in Love, fantastic motion picture. But anyway, all of this to say, just by pure coincidence, I see a kid from my high school walking around Stratford upon Avon. What are the odds? Like a kid that I'm friendly with, you know? And it turns out that my high school was there. And when I walked back to the theater arts bus to get on our bus to go, and this is such a weird moment in my life, the bus for my high school was parked right next to the theater arts campus, the French Woods campus. We're in Stratford upon Avon. We're somewhere else in the world. And I'm like looking at these two buses and I'm going, this is my life in a nutshell. Like, where do you belong? You know? And it was like this moment for me where I was just like, and again, it was my high school, so I was in high school, but it was this moment for me at that age where I just took one look at those two buses. What a moment. Two buses sitting side by side representing where I should or shouldn't be in life. And it was just that moment where I was like, I'm an arts kid and I'll never not be one. And I always was one, but it was just that moment where I was like, I looked at that other bus and I was like, I don't belong there. I don't belong there with the sports. I don't belong there with the preppy kids. I don't belong there with what in college became the Greek life. I never got any of that stuff. I wasn't around any of that stuff. The athletics, none of it. I didn't like any of it. But something about theater and the escapism of theater has just always spoken to me. And it was just such a weird moment to be somewhere else in the world and to have both parts of your life standing right in front of you and almost being like told to choose a door. So I shared that story with you. That's my love of theater.
That's an amazing story. I believe in all that stuff. The stars aligning, signs, superstitions, all of that stuff. And that moment was basically like your worlds were colliding and you were where you belonged. And it was a sign almost like, yep, you're where you should be, and keep going with that and keep pursuing that. So that's awesome. I love that story.
Yeah. And meanwhile, have you ever been to like Stratford upon Avon? Have you ever had the good opportunity to see any of that stuff?
Never. And I also love Shakespeare, so I would love to, but I've never been.
It's so cool. And then like going to the Globe, they recreated the Globe Theater. This is ages ago I went, right? And just to be able to walk in that, even though it wasn't the actual Globe, but it was a literal recreation, and just to get a sense of what that was like. Such a different world, you know. And I'm obsessed with Shakespeare. I have the big book of all of his sonnets, because even as a little kid, I was obsessed with that stuff. Now, let me ask you this really quick. Do you think Shakespeare was real?
Yeah.
Or do you think he's an amalgamation?
Oh, totally real.
Because it's suggested that, maybe he wasn't real and that he's an amalgamation of several writers.
If that is true, I don't want to believe that. Right. I've never heard that, but I would never want to believe it. So I'd probably never read about it or try to listen to that anyway, because I believe it's totally real. Yeah,
I'm with you. I don't want to believe it anyway. And I don't even know how much of that comes out of Shakespeare in Love or not. I don't know. That movie was so good, though. That movie was so good.
I know. All of Shakespeare. Romeo and Juliet obviously is number one.
Have you ever seen the 3.5 hour Hamlet with Kenneth Branagh?
So long ago. So not recently enough, but yes, back in the day.
And everybody's in it. Like Kate Winslet is in it, I think. Jack Lemmon before he passed away, obviously. The movie's old. But I remember watching that on VHS. It was like a 2-tape set. I love that stuff.
Yeah,
Shakespeare, it's the best.
All of that is classic. I love the classic Romeo and Juliet. I watched the new one with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes, and I do like that one, but nothing will compare to the original one that my mom showed me when I was a kid.
The new one from 30 years ago. How old do we feel?
I feel so old. I remember watching it in high school. I think I was a junior, maybe in high school when that one was out. and it's cool and I like it, but to me, it's just like, it doesn't serve this, it's just not the same. I mean, I'll still watch it, but definitely not the same as the Olivia Hussey,
Look,
the one from back in the day.
I'm old enough to remember when Leo was on Growing Pains, okay?
We're about the same. We're like the Full House, Saved by the Bell, Growing Pains,
Right.
generation. Yes,
yeah, he was like the sidekick on that show for the longest time.
Crazy. I remember that.
Yeah. And then there's What's Eating Gilbert Grape and all of that. Like all of this stuff leading up to Titanic. It's kind of fascinating, right? Like you look back at some of these things. I mean, if I wouldn't have stopped to think about it, I would have just totally bought into the premise of that being the new Romeo and Juliet movie. But like, geez, it's way long ago. I don't even want to do the math.
And it's not.
No, because there's been others since then, but yeah.
Probably. I think you're right. There has.
So West Side Story is something that I was talking about yesterday. I mean, to cut you off, I just want to get this out. West Side Story is something I was talking about yesterday. That is a modernized version of Romeo and Juliet, and
right.
I have not seen the Spielberg version. That's another one of these shows. I love the music, like more than the show itself. But like there you go. Like there's a modernized version. Like that's something I got to see.
Well, so I haven't seen that one either. And to be honest with you, that's almost was a conscious choice because I'm afraid to see it because I love the one that I first saw, growing up. So I know all the remakes, and of all these movies, I'm sure they're great, but and same with Wicked. Like I'm afraid I want to see it and I know I will. But I'm afraid to because I loved going to the theater and seeing it on Broadway there. And I'm nervous, to go see the movie. That one's hard for me because I like the originals of all these things. And I worry about seeing these, major theater, movie theater productions of them.
Yeah. I mean, look, again, we had this conversation, I think walking out of Fantasmic last night, but it's like even, I don't know. I'm going to go for the nostalgia. I don't even know. Can you say nostalgia around Wicked? I mean, I guess it's old enough, but I guess for me, the nostalgia to Wicked ties to some personal experiences to the moment of going and finally seeing it in the theater, relating to the fact that they've been developing that property, for as long as I was working in the entertainment industry. Like there's these little personal pillars in my life that correlate to it as well. So, I'm not going to let reality set in on that one. In the back of my mind, I'll be criticizing the music and the cinematography and all that. But, sometimes I got to turn all that stuff off and just enjoy it. And I'm sure I'll have my critiques.
Right.
Like it does. It looks very washed out, but okay, whatever.
Right. I'm sure. And that is all. You probably have other callers who want to chime in, but you're doing awesome. Love the show.
Thank you.
Great.
No, it's just Ellis again.
And I've noticed that you're definitely increasing in viewership for sure because the TikTok live number seems to be going up every day. So awesome work. Keep it up.
Thank you so much for calling. I appreciate you. 253-263-1540. I'll podcast this out at the end of the show. Wherever you listen to your podcast, Under the Influence. Let's take a quick moment to talk about how you can support this endeavor, helping knock out that gift goal on TikTok. I'm experimenting every day because I'd like to get to the point that by the end of this show, the gift goal can be knocked out. I just got to find the balance for the right metric. And then we can do a team lift at the end once I cut the radio presentation. Then we can get into the parks. We can do Fortnite and do all these things. But if you want to lend your support to the operation, you've got the gift goal over there. You've got TVRemix.com. Better than subscribing on YouTube or TikTok. Think of it like my Patreon. There's lots of free content. There's lots of content behind the paywall, both live Disney replays and lots of other stuff. So there's a lot of different ways you can support what we're doing. And even as simple as just following on Instagram and YouTube, and as simple as adding the podcast into your podcast downloads, reviewing the podcast, rating the podcast on whatever platform you're on. There's a whole bunch of ways you can support what we're doing. Sometimes it's just as easy as a click, okay? So I have to stop and remind folks about these things. Frequency is the name of the game. I don't do that enough. So you have TVRemix.com. You've got the gift goal on TikTok. You've got the travel form on the website. We can help you book your trip. Those commissions come from outside of that. So that's another way you can help out. And then, of course, go follow on Twitter. Go follow on YouTube. Go follow on Instagram. And if you're not following on TikTok, well, then welcome and go follow on TikTok. All right? Write down the phone number. It's the same every show, 253-263-1540, 253-263-1540. I have a couple more pieces of news to get to. I don't know what's going on with the Ukraine and Russia. Going into the show yesterday, I saw that they launched something. Admittedly, I've not even followed up on this. But, you know, sometimes, and again, I don't even know the current state, but sometimes I look at these things for what they are, which is just another distraction. And as much as people want to gripe about the next administration coming in, a move like this done at this moment, to me, just seems like manipulation. And I just hope, again, that when it's all said and done, that we can remember that at least those of us here in this country we're all one, okay? And I gotta say it again, things are gonna get off the rails. I mean, I don't like this. And it's a game. It's a game, right? War is a game, sadly. And lives are put up at risk. And people die over these war games that are played. And I don't like it. I talk about our veterans, but I don't like the fact that innocent folks on any side, okay, whether we're talking about Russia, the Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, nobody wants to see innocent civilians die for a war waged between two governments, okay? So I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know where we're headed as far as international policy is concerned for the next 4 years. It's a little scary, but that's why we're here. We're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about everything. So I only bring it up just to say that it's something that's going on in the world. And much like anything else, I want this to be a place for it to be discussed. I don't really have anything else to say other than what I just said. I am against war. I am against the business of war. I am against innocent civilians dying because two governments choose to fight. Okay? And I actually just find it to be completely immature. I mean, it's really absolutely absurd if you really boil down what war is. I just find it to be absolutely absurd. You know, we're all on this planet together. I don't understand why we have to hate people for their differences. Because somebody doesn't look like you, because somebody doesn't talk like you, because somebody doesn't think like you. Why we have to fight over those things. Why we can't just celebrate our differences, agree to disagree, and when you need to walk away peacefully. But I just hate the idea of like, we're now enticing them to bomb them, they're going to retaliate, and we're going to all catch ourselves in a quagmire. And who suffers the most? Innocent civilians. Our troops. So I take umbrage with that. Now, on a lighter note, there is a TikTok event coming up next month, and I do believe I will be going to TikTok headquarters. I was supposed to go to TikTok headquarters last month, like right before the hurricane in LA, and I didn't go. And admittedly, I didn't go because I didn't feel like dealing with the travel at that particular moment in time. I didn't feel like dealing with the headache of travel just to go to TikTok headquarters to be told to battle. All right? But I do kind of want to go to the headquarters in New York even more than the headquarters in LA, because more times than not, that's where business is being had, right? Usually the business is in New York and the entertainment side of things happens in LA, and I'm sure there's business going on in LA, but I love the idea of going and mingling with the execs at TikTok headquarters. So all that to say, I finally made the move and got a credit card that gives me airport lounge access. And I don't know if any of y'all out there have ever experienced an airport lounge, but it's like a whole other world. I mean, it's literally, I did it with Nick when we went to Japan the first time because he's bougie. This Nick, he goes all this stuff, right? He does like that MQD or whatever it is, the Delta points. I mean, he plays all these things, the status thing, all of this. I never got into this stuff, but I'm looking at him and I'm getting a glimpse into what he's up to. And I'm like, I got to get up there. I got to get up into this lounge. I mean, you go up there, there's sushi, there's beer dispensers, like robotic beer dispensers. You just put your cup up there and tilt it and it fills your beer. So needless to say, not only do I want to go to the TikTok offices, I really just want to use it as an excuse to go to the airport. Like, can I just go to the airport now? Like, can I just buy a dirt cheap ticket? Does anybody do this? There's got to be people out there that just go lounge hopping. So I don't know. Maybe we'll go on like a lounge hopping adventure because I'm telling you, that is a whole different lifestyle. They're living the life up in those lounges, and now I have access. So I'm very, very happy that that moment has come for me. I was watching Nick do this for years. So I had a goal for myself because, you know, during the pandemic, my credit got obliterated. I've told this story before, but I didn't get any federal relief during the pandemic, okay? Not as a small business owner, not as an individual. I watched folks that I had on payroll get their pockets lined with money. I didn't get any emergency disaster relief from the government, okay? And it wasn't for a lack of calling, whether it was the senators or the governor or the White House. Believe me, I picked up the phone and tried so hard to get disaster relief. My COVID relief came from Amex. My COVID relief, I think I got, when it was all said and done, a few $100s from the government. I got chump change, okay? And like so many small businesses, lost it all. And that Amex was my federal relief. The Amex literally saved my tuchus during the pandemic and allowed me to rebuild my life. Wiped out my credit score, allowed me to rebuild my life. I think I inadvertently just ended the phone lines, so whatever. That's fine. We're going to wrap up in a minute anyway. But the Amex was my saving grace. But it knocked out, obliterated my credit score. Well, in the last year, I'm fortunate to have rebuilt it, and I think most people don't even understand how credit works because in all actuality, you not using credit doesn't help your credit. You have to use credit to build credit. And I don't think we educate kids on that. I don't recall one lesson in school about credit or balancing a checkbook, although that's antiquated, but bookkeeping. I don't recall one introduction to finance in any of my classes or like how to be like a functioning adult when it comes to credit and accounting, you know, unless you were taking a specialized class. So anyway, I'm happy to say that I was able to rebuild, okay, and leaps and bounds above, I think, where it even was pre-pandemic, to the point that I finally am eligible for this card. So now I have lounge access. So I am going to be bougie like Nick, and I'm going to go live it up in the Delta Lounge. I'm very excited. And, who knows? Maybe we even do I'm telling you, how fun would it be just to spend I just want to go lounge hopping. Somebody out there has got to have done this, but I want to go lounge hopping. How much fun would it be? I think I was texting Kenzie about this. She was like, just get a cheap flight to Atlanta, you know? And then I thought about it. I was like, well, wait a second. Aren't there new laws that say if you don't use the airline ticket, they have to refund you? So couldn't I buy a $100 airline ticket, go into the airport, go to the lounge, never get on the airplane, get the ticket refunded, and just spend my day in the Delta Lounge? Just living it up, eating sushi, drinking beer. I say we do a podcast from the Delta Lounge. I'm very excited. Needless to say, I'm very excited. Very, very excited. And I watched Nick for years. I mean, this guy, let me tell you something. I've known Nick since the 3rd grade, okay? And one of these days he'll call in. And he's like Mr. Fancy Pants, you know? Everything with him, everything with this guy is luxury, right? You know. So I'm seeing what he's up to, and I'm like, explain this to me. Explain this to me, Nick. So he finally does it. So I'm all excited, and I finally get approved, and I get the card finally, because I was, you know, it's incremental, you know, oh, you're approved for this one, but not this one, but the one I wanted with the lounge access. So I'm all excited, I finally text Nick, and I get back one of these clapping emojis, or clapping gifs, and I was like, oh, that's really snotty of you, Nick. You're the one that introduced me to this. It was kind of like welcome to the club. I was like, thanks, Nick. Thanks a lot, pal. So anyway, I don't know if that's like a thing, if people do that, if they lounge hop, but I'm going to figure that out. I just want to go spend like a day in the lounge. I mean, they're fantastic. These lounges are stunning. I'll just go lounge hop around the country. So the next time that you see me pop up in an airport, it will not be with the general population. We will not be with Gen Pop. We will be up top, highfalutin in the Delta Lounge. I want to thank you all for calling in. I'm going to wrap it up with you. We're going to do a team lift in a moment over on TikTok. Such great calls today. Thank you so much, Ellis. You are gold, my friend. Never change. We love you for that. Such a great sport. And don't give up calling Kathleen, okay? Just don't. And if you actually have her number, text it to me. Thank you all so much for tuning in on YouTube. You can listen to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts at Under the Influence. Thank you for contributing to the gift goal. And I will see you in the parks.